"So how was your date with Julian go?" my mum asked as she served me my breakfast of fried rice and salad, my favorite. I always love having breakfast with my parents whenever I come visiting during the weekends. But most importantly, I visit cause of Mum's food. But this weekend's visit has been bittersweet for me, basically because she's been nagging me to death to get married. I pretended as though I didn't hear her as I fixed my eyes and concentration to a video I was watching on YouTube. "Didn't you hear me the first time, or should I repeat myself, Derek?" she said authoritatively, though in a calm tune. "I heard you the first time, Mum," I answered, absent-mindedly still watching the video. "What did I tell you about table manners, Derek?" A voice that sounded like my dad's. I raised my face only to see my dad that had been away on a week business trip, standing in his pajamas. "Pops," I said. "My boy." "My boy," he said happily as we hugged each other. My dad was not just a father figure to me, he was my mentor, my advisor, and my best friend. I was labeled the daddy's boy by my other siblings as I always stuck to my dad since I was little. "How was your trip, Dad?" I asked as I savored my breakfast. "It was good. I heard through the news during my trip to the US that you proposed a partnership with Don Pablo Wine Company in Spain, the biggest in Europe. Do you think they would accept your proposal?" he asked curiously. "Well, Dad, you once told me that every great journey starts with a step, and no mountain is unsurmountable. So I took my chances. Besides, I got nothing to lose," I answered confidently. If I've learnt anything from my dad, it would be his courage, confidence, and lionic approach to any difficult task. "That's my boy, the real son of his father," my father said proudly. "Okay, enough of the business talk, honey," my mum said as she looked at my dad tenderly. "Help me talk to this your son. I have been trying for the past 7 months, since the strange cancellation of his wedding with Sandra, to get him settled down with a decent working-class lady. But he has constantly made jest of the whole thing," she lamented as she took a glass of water and continued as my dad listened attentively. "Can you imagine that I have set him up with Governor Iduma's last daughter, Toyin, who is a barrister, Senator Idris's daughter, who is a neurosurgeon, and Senator Baker's daughter, who is a pharmacist. But this naughty boy of yours claimed they didn't meet his fancy, can you imagine?" she said, obviously annoyed. "What do you have to say about this son?" my dad asked. "Well, first of all, I'm not 50 years old, I'm just 26, and secondly, I have no plans for now to get married. Maybe 3 to 5 years from now I would consider if, because I want to put all my focus and time to building my wine company to be the best in Africa. That's my answer, Dad," I said, getting up from the table. "I got to go, Mum and Dad. I'm already late for work," I said. "Cheer up, Mum," she smiled. "Silly boy, drive safe, honey," she said from behind as I made my way to the door. At around 3:30 p.m. I was already at my mansion, very tired. The day's work was very tedious, as I had to go through a mountain of documents and files to sign or approve them. "Damn, running a company aren't child's play," I said as I walked up the stairs and into my room. I fell face down on the bed and dozed off. I woke up a few hours later to my phone ringing non-stop. I answered the phone still half asleep. "Yeah, what's up, bruh?" I said as I heard a familiar voice on the other line. It was Dave. I could also hear some loud music playing at the background. "We are already at the club, man. Where you at?" Dave asked. On hearing this, I got up from bed instantly. My friends and I had made it a tradition to always chill out in our favorite club after the day's word. This was a thing they initiated to help me get over Sandra's betrayal. "I would be there," I said, and hung up. Looking at the clock, it was already 9:30 p.m. "Damn," I cursed under my breath. I took a quick shower, put on a Calvin Klein black polo and leather jacket, a black trouser. To me, black was the real deal. I looked at the mirror. There was a reason I was called the most eligible bachelor in Lekki. I got the looks, the physique, and most importantly, I got the money. I wore my $50K Rolex watch and drove off in my Ferrari. I got to the club 5 minutes earlier and went straight to the VIP section of the club where we normally chill out. From where we sat, we could see whoever that comes in or go out of the club. Around 3 a.m., Sandra walked in with a dude. I wouldn't have known had it not been Mikkel who announced it to my hearing. "Is that not Sandra?" he asked. I raised my head and saw her in the arms of her partner in crime. I felt a sharp pain in my heart. The pain I buried deep down in my heart started rushing out to the surface. I felt the same pain I felt 7 months ago. I didn't say anything as I just signaled to the waiter to bring more wine. My friends stared at me as though I was about to jump off the ledge. I drank like never before. "Aren't you taking too much D?" Jude asked. "I'm fine, man," I answered. I took the last glass and stood up, walking to where Sandra and her lover sat. Immediately Save rushed and stood in front of me. "Whatever you plan on doing, please don't," he pleaded. "Get out of my way, Dave," I said as I shoved him aside. "Hi, Sandra," I said when I got to their table. Before she or anyone could say anything, I shoved her from seat, pulled her to my arms and kissed her fiercely. She tried to push me off, but I was too much for her. Few seconds into the kiss, a stronger arm pulled me off of her and gave a punch on the face. I hit him back and we started fighting. I didn't care that we were being filmed, I just wanted to teach the son of a bitch a lesson, and I did before the bouncers came and threw us out of the club. "This aren't over, bitch," the guy cursed and drove off, leaving Sandra behind. "What the hell is wrong with you, man? Congratulations, you are all over every social media outlet," Save said and drove off angrily with his girlfriend. "Like I care," I said and drove off. Few minutes into the road, I started feeling lightheaded and dizzy. I didn't know if it's from the fight or the reaction of all the bottles of wine I gulped down my throat at the club. But all I knew was that my eyes were shutting. I shone my head trying to clear my head, but had little or no help at all. A mind was telling me to park at one side of the road and take a quick nap, but another reminded me of my appointments at the office 7 a.m. that morning. Plus, I had a meeting that I can't miss for anything in the world. So I shook my head harder and continued my journey back home. Few minutes later, I was already fast asleep, while my car obviously drove itself. I didn't know what happened later on, as I heard a deafening bump and hit my head hard on the steering wheel and fell unconscious. I had hit an Arab tractor that was parked at the roadside. 30 minutes or thereabout. I regained consciousness, though heavy smokes was already coming out of the burnet and into the car. I saw a flicker of light lit in the engine area, and instantly my heart fell into my stomach. "Oh my God," I said as fear griped me. I searched for my phone but couldn't find it. For some strange reasons, the door of the Ferrari refused to open and the windscreen refused to wind down. "What is happening?" I panicked. "Is this how it's all going to end?" Tears started running down my face as I thought about my parents, especially my sweet mum. My death will definitely make the news headlines today. The billionaire bachelor burnt to death in his own Ferrari. What an irony of life, I whispered to myself. The fire was getting pretty intense, so was the smokes coming inside the car. I was almost choked to death, about to give up hope of being saved, when I heard a hard bang on the windscreen. I opened my eyes weakly and saw a beautiful lady hitting the windscreen with an iron bar. I lost consciousness again as I blacked out and didn't know what happened afterwards. I woke up hours later on an oxygen at a private ward in the University of Lagos Federal Hospital, where my parents and friends sat beside me, all wearing a worried look. "Am I dead?" was what I could say when I regained my consciousness. "Thank God he's awake," my mum screamed, almost pulling down the entire hospital with her voice. The doctors and the nurses rushed in, thinking that it was an emergency. "Where is she?" I asked as I couldn't see the lady that rescued me in the room. "You mean the lady that saved your ass from being burnt to ashes?" Dave hit back, still obviously annoyed with what I did at the club. "Yeah," I answered back. "She left few minutes after we got here," my dad said. "Did you at least got her contacts?" I asked anxiously, as I needed to thank her personally. "No, she didn't give us her name, but made mention that she was a final year student of University of Lagos," my dad said. "Could you imagine that she turned down a little token of 100,000 naira your father gave her as a thank you gift for saving your life?" "I didn't know such ladies still exists in this our Nigeria," my mum said, shaking her head. "We were still talking when the doctor came in again to inform us that I would be discharged in 3 days' time, as I would have to stay in the hospital 2 more days for observation. On Monday morning, I was already at my mansion preparing for work. I had a mountain load of paperwork to go through and some important meetings to attend. So basically, today's going to be horrible. Probably wouldn't get time for clubbing today. I put on my red Givenchy suit and an Italian leather-skin shoes. "You look good, man," I said, smiling to myself at the mirror. I left a few seconds later. On my way to the office, I stopped at an intersection as the traffic light shone red. I saw a pretty lady pass in the front. She really looked like the girl that saved me. So when we were free to drive, I had to drive slowly past where she stood waiting for a taxi. It was really her. I mean, how could I even forget her face? She was really beautiful. I parked my car a few yards from where she stood, got down from the car, stretched to my full length, and put on my Mr. Nice Guy smile. "Hi, I'm Derek. Do you remember me?" I said, trying to make her look at my face, but she was busy looking at the road. My ego was badly bruised. No lady has treated me like that ever. She reluctantly returned my greetings. "Hi, I remember you. You were the guy I saved from the fire. Thankfully you are alive," she finally said. "But I got to go now. I have to be somewhere as soon as possible," she said as she flagged down a taxi. "Let me give you a ride at least." I called behind her. She turned and I thought she would take me up on my offer. "Thanks, but no thanks," she said and entered the taxi. I just stood there with hands in my pocket, amazed that I can actually be snubbed by a lady. Few minutes later, I was already at the office, obviously late as my secretary kept calling me non-stop. "Bring them in one at a time," I told my secretary as I entered my office. I had an interview to conduct with our new IT student. I wanted to know them personally. That has always been my policy with any individual that works in my company. Call in the next person, the last person I hope. I told the guy that I just interviewed. The next person that came in was a surprise and shaker to me. I didn't know if it was fate or coincidence, but the lady that saved me from the fire incident that I saw this morning was the same lady standing before me in my very office. "I'll be damned," I said as I stared at her. She was obviously surprised and shocked, but did well to keep it together. I looked through the documents she presented for her interview. I must admit I was very impressed. She is well on her way to graduate with distinction, if not the best graduating student. "Well, Beverly, beautiful name you got there. I'm impressed with what I'm seeing here, but I have one question though. If you get it right, I will give you the job of my PA, which will be yours even after you graduate. That is an official automatic employment with pay grade of level 8, an official car and a penthouse. Though it will be official after you graduate. By only if you answer my question honestly and truthfully." I concluded, giving her a daring stare. "I'm all ears, sir," she said. "All right then, if you knew that I was the CEO of this company, would you have treated me the way you did at the bus stop?" I said, smiling devilishly. I was expecting her to give me the normal Nigerian girl answer that would save her any embarrassment and secure her the job, but I was grossly disappointed because her answer was that of a non-apologetic feminist. Strong-willed lady. "With all due respect, sir, I wouldn't have treated you any differently. I mean, you practically undressed me with your eyes." "It was irritating and profoundly annoying," she said boldly. At this point, I was terribly embarrassed because she caught me off guard. I didn't really think that she noticed it back, or if she still notices now. Because ever since she came into my office, I've tried so hard to keep my eyes from strolling down her insane figure. "My bad, I apologize. I didn't mean to stare. I lied. Or was I kidding? I mean to stare. It's your fault you look so damn gorgeous." I thought to myself. "Well, congratulations, Beverly. You are now my personal assistant, with effect immediately." I said, grinning. "Here, give this to the secretary. On your way out, she will update you on my schedules. And show you your office," I said as I handed her a file and her documents. I could see the shock and surprise in her face as her countenance changed. She never expected it. "Oh my God, I can't believe it." "Thank you, sir," she stammers as tears ran down her cheeks. "You deserve it. I will make do on my promises," I said as she took the files and left the office. "Come on in," I said to whoever that was knocking on the door of my office. "Good afternoon, sir," Beverly greeted as she walked into my office. Damn, she smelled and looked good. As always, "Sir, 3 mails just came in, not all 3 bearing foreign address." On hearing this, I stood up from my seat. "Can I have those?" I said, as I collected the mails from Beverly. "You may go. I have been expecting this mail for the past 3 weeks, be it a congratulation or a rejection. I wanted to know at least my proposals were read and considered." I sat down slowly and started going through the mail, as my heart was beating louder than my primary school bell. I honestly wanted my proposals to be accepted, as it is a chance for my company to enter Europe and conquer it as I have done so well in African continent. Whoa! Yes! 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 I screamed on top of my voice as Beverly rushed into my office. "Are you all right, sir?" she said, wearing a worried face as she bashed into my office. "Oh, I am more than okay," I said as I rushed to where she was standing and draw her into my arms for a hug. Surprisingly, she didn't push me off. "We did it, Beverly. You told me not to lose hope, that my proposals were too good to be turned down. You believed in me." "Thank you," I whispered into her ears. "You're welcome, sir. So can you let go now? Because I can't breathe, with the way you're holding me so tight." "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to," I said as I let her out of my arms. "We got all the 3 contracts, the Spanish government, from Belgium and from Germany. And also, I was nominated for the award of All African Entrepreneurs of the Year. The award ceremonies will be taking place in Madrid this Sunday, so I believe you have an international passport?" I asked inquisitively. "No, I don't have for now, and why do I need one now, sir?" she asked. "Well, for starters, as my PA. You are like my wallet. Wherever I go, you go. Simple as that. So get ready, Beverly. We will travel the world pretty much before the end of your IT. Okay, sir. Well, get your things ready. My secretary will get you an international passport by tomorrow or next, because by Thursday we will be live in Madrid for the award and the official signing of the contracts." I said. "You may go. I will see you guys at our usual spot later this evening after I've seen my parents about the good news," I said to Tony on the phone as I made my way to the parking lot. The day had gone so well, my proposal was approved, and I got myself a gorgeous PA. It couldn't get any better. I smiled sheepishly as I drove out of the company. As I was stuck in traffic, I saw my PA standing on her usual spot on the bus stop. I might have to reconsider giving her the company car now than waiting till she graduates. After all, it's just few months to her graduation, I said to myself. I was still deliberating within myself when a black SUV pulled over in front of her, and a guy in his late 20s came down from the car, and to my utter surprise and chagrin, my PA jumped up and hugged him. "That does it," I said to myself as I drove off. My friends and I have 2 favorite spots. One was the Sleek Lounge and Genesis Eatery. But today we needed a spot where there is less noise and calmer, so we drove to Genesis. Wait, let me get this straight. You are saying that since you got your PA, all the proposals and contracts that had been overdue just started getting approval one by one? Tony asked solemnly. And I nodded, damn right. My concern is this, is the babe beautiful? Jack asked as we all burst into laughter. I was about to answer his question when I saw my PA being escorted inside the eatery with the same SUV guy. Well, speak of the devil, I said as I pointed to my friends to where they were seated. Wow, you didn't say she was a beauty goddess, Jack said, jaw dropped as he stared at her. Quit staring, guys, I said to them. I can't help it, man. You mean you stare at this face every day? Are we going to the club or what? I asked as I rose up from where I sat. The exit door was just across their table, so obviously our eyes locked. I saw the look of surprise in her eyes, but she looked away almost immediately. Damn, those eyes, I said to myself as I looked away. We touched down in Nigeria at around 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. The company cars were already waiting at the airport to take each and every one of my staff to our destination, but Beverly took a cab and left. Since after yesterday's incident, it seemed she doesn't want to be in the same space as me. I went straight to my mum and dad's. I had promised that I would always come visit during weekends, although today was Sunday and a new week. I just wanted to see my favorite girl in the world, my mum, and maybe eat some nice Sunday rice. Oh, my darling boy is back, my mum screamed as she left the food she was starving at the dinning and rushed to where I was standing arms wide and gave me some motherly love. Luckily for me, I came in just on time for Sunday lunch. My man crush is back, my kid sister Stephanie said, as she came around and gave me a warm hug. "Oh, Steph, honey, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it to your graduation in New York," I said as I hugged her. She is my best friend, and sometimes my relationship advisor. I never thought I would ever miss her graduation for anything in the world. But it just happened that the Spain trip coincided with her graduation. We all watched the contract signing on BBC Evening News. "I'm proud of you, honey, congratulations," she said happily. She was always against talking while eating, but today she couldn't contain her joy. "So who was that lady on red gown standing beside you during the contract signing? She looked really gorgeous," Stephanie asked curiously. "She's my PA," I said as I eat my salad. "Derek, you didn't tell us that your PA was a woman," my mum asked surprisingly. "I didn't tell my parents that my PA was a lady because I know they would overreact as they are doing now. Prior to Beverly's appointment, I was still nursing a broken heart, so most times than not, my parents walk up on me making out with different women at my house. They even sent me to one of her friends for counseling. I didn't take my ex-betrayal well, so they were worried that women will always be my Achilles heel. And they advised against me having female secretary or PA because they feared it may affect my work. But they were so wrong. I was the best because I don't mix business with pleasure. Business stays at the office, pleasures and lots of it stays outside the company. I know what you guys are thinking, but Mum, Dad, she is not just any lady. She is the lady that saved me from the fire accident," I said as I showed them her pictures in my phone. "Oh, you don't say," my mum said very shocked as she stared at her pictures. "What a small world," my dad chipped in. "She looks different and very classy," my mum continued. "It was just a coincidence that she happened to apply for her IT in my company," I said, defending myself before they would read any more meaning to it than it already is. "Invite her over on Sunday. We never got to properly thank her for saving your life," my mum requested. "No way, I don't see that happening, ever," I said sadly. "Why? Did something happen between you two in Spain?" my sis asked, throwing me a suspicious look. She's known me so well, so much so that she knows when something is wrong. "Yes, something happened," I admitted. "But it's not what you think though," said as I saw all the suspicious eyes glaring at me. "I hurt her pretty bad," I said finally. This made my mum freak out. "How many times have I told you, Derek, that a man that lays a hand on any lady, no matter what, is a he-goat, a beast?" My mum boiled angrily. "She wouldn't even allow me defend myself." "Allow the young man defend himself, honey," my dad said, interrupting her. "Thanks, Dad," I said. "Mum, I didn't hit her. I would never do that." "You know me, Ma," I said. "Oh, thank God," my mum said, feeling very relieved. "But I did say some terrible things to her," I said as I narrated everything that happened between me and Beverly to them, while they listened attentively. "Oh my God, you did not just say those things to her," Stephanie said, really shocked. "I did, and I wouldn't blame her if she hands in her resignation letter tomorrow," I said sadly. "I enjoyed her working for me, not only because of her insane beauty, but because she was smart, intelligent, and very thoughtful lady. I will hate losing her and her services." "Oh son, you went too far. You just crossed the line," my mum said. "Well, if it's any consolation, I don't think she will resign. If anything you said about her is true, then she being a non-repentant feminist, she will definitely show up, if not for anything. But to finish her IT, that type of lady doesn't allow her personal life interfere her work life," she said confidently. "My sister is such a good judge of character. I hope she is right about this." "Thanks, sis," I said as I continued with my lunch. "And for the record, I don't think it's a coincidence for her working for you. I think it's fate or even destiny," my mum said. "Oh mum, come on, enough of the matchmaking already," I said wearily, but she continued. "You never know, maybe she might end up being my daughter-in-law," my mum said, chuckling. At this point, I laughed so hard that my ribs hurt. I never said I liked her, and even if I did, which I don't, Pedro Santiago drools over her, and there is the SUV guy, who I don't know his relationship with her. "So Mum, these guys are ahead of me in the pecking order," I said. "Did you just admit that you like her?" my sister asked coyly. "I didn't say anything, Steph." "Allow me to eat my lunch in peace," I said as I eat my lunch silently. I came to work early on Monday morning. I had made up my mind to expect anything from Beverly that day. I just pray she will report to work today. It was past 7:30 and she is yet to report to my office, like she normally does every morning. I called the secretary's office like 10 times already, but they said she hasn't come to work. So much for a feminist, I said dryly as I paced my office. I was on the phone for the 11th time when Beverly walked in with some files. "I am sorry I'm late, sir. I was stuck in traffic," she said as she walked into my office. "It's okay, Beverly. I'm just glad you showed up. I have a lot of things I want to tell you, starting with apologizing," I said, but I received a cold shoulder. "Sir, I think it's better to focus on the company rather than my personal life," she said coldly. Ouch, that felt like a punch on the groin. "Fair enough. What do you have for me?" I said as she handed me some files that needed my signature. I can take her strictness, cold shoulders, as long as she reports to work every day. "There you go," I said as I handed her the files. "One more thing. Email all my board members. Tell them that we have an emergency meeting on Friday morning by 10, I said as she took the files and left my office. During our board meeting, I named my sister Stephanie my Chief Financial Officer CFO. She will be handling all the financial aspect of this company starting on Monday, I announced to the board. As they applauded her appointment, "I am so fortunate to get her to work for me. I mean, she was on the top of her class in Yale University, New York. A lot of company with higher paycheck wanted to poach her, but ultimately she chooses blood over money." "Beverly will show you your office," I said to Stephanie as Beverly took her out of the conference hall. It's been over a month since our Spain trip debacle, but Beverly hardly talks to me on a non-formal ground like she used to, I lamented to my friends as I gulped down a glass of Hennessy. "If she obeys you like her boss, comes to work early, and is efficient with her work, then I don't think you need anything from her again." Tony said frankly, "You guys don't understand. Before the trip, we were friends. She even made me eat in the cafeteria once. She practically made me believe that the world is not all about Lamborghinis and Ferraris. She is special. I didn't know when I said that last part." "Oh, Derek, son of Ezi Ego, how low have you fallen for this girl?" Jason said mockingly, as they all burst into laughter. "No, I didn't," I lied. "Keep telling yourself that," Frank said. "Speak of the devil. Is that not Beverly?" Tony said, pointing at her as she made her way into sleek lounge. "And I guess the guy with her is the SUV guy," Jason asked. "What is she doing here?" I asked, very much surprised. "To blow off some steam, obviously," Frank said. I watched jealously as the guy was all over her. She seemed uncomfortable and uneasy, but he didn't seem to notice. He took her to the dance floor and they started dancing. And then he draws close and kissed her, but surprisingly she pushed him off slowly. And that, I was happy. I sipped my drink as I watched them closely. I watched as she left him and went and sat by herself. "Pervert," Tony said as he hit my head. "I am not. I'm just enjoying myself," I said as I saw Beverly getting up and heading at the door, with the SUV guy behind her. "You could just tell her how much you like her, 'cause it's becoming too obvious," Frank said. "I think I will call it a night." I said to the guys as I got up to leave, "Come on, men, we just got here." "It's still 8 p.m. Jason said. "Good night, guys," I said as I made my way through the crowd of people at the club. I drove out with the intention to go home, but I saw myself going to the opposite direction. I was heading to Beverly's house. I got her address from her resume since a month ago, but I have not really had the courage to show up at her place unannounced, and definitely not now that she probably hates me. But I needed to talk to her outside the office, and even though I don't know how this will go, it's better than not doing anything. I got to her apartment and immediately wanted to go back, but "Just knock on the damn door, Derek," I said to myself. I hated feeling so vulnerable. I knocked on her door like 3 times before she came out. "Hey," I said nervously, not knowing how she would react to this. "What are you doing here, sir?" she asked, surprised. "I just want us to talk. You have not given me a chance of the day. So I decided to pay you a visit," I said. "We have nothing to discuss," she said as she wanted to close the door. I held the door with my hand. "Please just hear me out," I pleaded. At this point she stepped aside and invited me in. Nice apartment she had. I sat on one of the sofas as she offered me a drink. I am so sorry for everything that happened in Spain. Everything I said, everything I did. I'm just so sorry, I apologized sincerely. Apology accepted, she replied, and then smiled. How much I missed those smiles. Why did you do what you did? She asked. I never really told you I was born and brought up in Spain. I schooled there from my kindergarten to college. And the first girl I loved was a Mexican. She was so beautiful. Long story short, she cheated on me with a mayor's son. And back here in Nigeria, my first fiancé cheated on me with the son of a senator. So I just had this misconstructed feelings about women, that they all want the same thing, money, I said finally. Wow, I'm sorry. I don't blame you. You've gone through a lot, she said. Yeah, you could say that, I replied. I was so happy we have passed our differences. She was so easy to talk to. And she was a great listener. But that wasn't the only reason you said all those things to me. You sounded like you were hurt, she said curiously, staring at me with those beautiful eyes. I couldn't lie any longer, so I admitted my worst feelings. I was jealous. I was so jealous that I almost lost my mind, I confessed. She laughed so much that I thought she was mocking me. You jealous? I doubt that, she said, still laughing, as she rose up to put down her noodles from the gas. I rose up to where I sat and walked straight behind her. She didn't see me coming. Before she could turn, I was already in front of her. What have you done to me? I can't think straight when I'm around you. You just take my breath away, Beverly. And seeing you in the arms of other guys, it hurts like hell, I said from my heart. She was speechless. And I have a feeling she feels something for me. And there was one way to find out, so I drew closer to her and kissed her, and I loved it. But she didn't push me away. As a matter of fact, she kissed me back. And then pushed me away slowly. I can't do this, she said. I just can't do this with you, she said, as she slipped away from my arms and went and sat in one of the sofas. I came and sat beside her. Why? Is it cause of Pedro or is it the SUV guy? I asked, fearing what her answer would be. But I needed to know. But she just gave me those smiles that makes all your worries go away. Jealousy doesn't look good on you, sir, she said, still smiling. I scoffed. Please just drop the title. Just call me Derek, I said. Okay, Derek, she said, stretching the alphabets of my name as in D-E-R-E-K. At this, we both burst into laughter. I loved her charisma, and she got those sense of humor that made me hypnotized to her. Well, Pedro, I like him. He's got this huge heart. He's romantic, very smart businessman, and to top it all, he knows how to treat a lady well. And yes, he kissed me a couple of times, but I can't be with him. 'Cause I can't be in a relationship with someone I have no feelings for or love. And I told him on the night of the awards. And he took it like a perfect gentleman, she said. Wow. It's not often you see a lady turn down a president's son advances, I said, smiling. Yeah, I just figured that I can't lead him on. He's such a nice guy. So what about the SUV guy? I asked, curious. She laughed. You mean Kelvin? It's a long story, she said, shutting me out. I have all the time in the world, I said as I held her hands. But she rose up from the sofa and went across the room. I felt like she was holding back on some things or feelings for this Kelvin guy. And it hurt like hell because it just seemed like I don't stand a chance with her if she is already in love with Kelvin. It's past 9 p.m. already and way past bedtime, she said, politely asking me to go, and coyly changing the topic. Okay, what about tomorrow? Tomorrow is Sunday, and we can discuss all about Kelvin and other stuff at dinner, I said, without knowing that I asked her out. Thanks, but Kelvin is taking me out to catch a movie tomorrow, so rain check, said softly. It felt like a pitfall hit my groins. Then I stood up from the sofa, walked up to her with my hands in my pocket. Because at that moment, all I wanted was to hug her tight and kiss her goodnight. See you on Monday, I said and left. I drove so fast so that I can't think about her. I got home, walked upstairs into my dark room, and I didn't bother to switch on the light. Really tired and hungry, but I preferred to sleep, so I fell on the bed. Where have you been, Dee? A voice in the dark asked, startling the living daylight out of me. I jerked up from the bed and rushed to the switches. Geez, what the heck, Isabel? I said as I switched on the light. She laughed hysterically, pointing at me. "Oh my God, you could have seen your face right now. I didn't know you can be frightened like this," she said, still laughing. "This is not funny, Isabel," I said. "Okay, I am sorry to startle you, but I called Tony and he said you left the club over an hour ago," she said, throwing me that interrogative stare from her. "And why should I explain my whereabouts to you?" I asked, as I walked down the stairs to the kitchen to prepare myself some noodles, and of course she followed me down, pestering me with questions. She was driving me insane, I swear. "Did you go see Beverly?" she asked, throwing her usual start. I pretended I didn't hear her. How the hell did she know? Then I turned slowly to face her. "Who told you that?" I asked, pretended I didn't know what she was talking about. "I know my brother so well. So much so that whenever he likes something or someone, he always goes for it," she said as she took the noodles from me and put inside the pot of water. She wanted to help me cook. "I guess you know me too well for your own good." "So how did it go?" she asked. "It was good." She forgives me and accepted my apology. "So we are back to being friends," I said. "Just friends, come on D, it's written all over you. You are head over heels in love with this girl and might not know it yet. But trust me, you don't want to be stuck in the friend zone," she said as she hit the eggs into a plate. She never minces her words, always straightforward. "I know, okay, but I don't know what else to do." "All right." I admitted my feelings to her, but I think it was too late because it seems she likes the SUV guy, I said sadly. "Derek, the good news is that she is neither engaged or married to this guy. And the Derek I know doesn't back down from a competition," she said as she put down the pot from the gas and dished it out for both of us. "I came to work a little bit late on Monday morning, so on coming out of the elevator, Beverly hijacked me from the elevator with different documents that needed my signature. 'Sir, you have a 12 p.m. meeting with the branch manager of Zenith Bank, and a guest is waiting for you in your office,' she said and left. "And who are you?" I asked to the lady sitting in my chair inside my own office, though she backed me and I couldn't say who it was. And then she turned around, and I saw the least person I expected to see. "Oh my God, Eva. What are you doing here?" I asked happily as I hugged her tightly. I was still holding her in my arms when Beverly and Isabel walked in on us. I pulled her off slowly. I saw something that looked like jealousy in her eyes when she saw me holding Eva, but she hid it very well. "Eva, honey, what are you doing here?" Isabel asked as they hugged each other. "Well, for starters, I called off my wedding a day before yesterday. I caught my fiancé in bed with his secretary. I wasn't shocked at all. I always knew he has eyes for other girls. So the first thing I did was take pictures of them. And I took the first flight back to Nigeria yesterday," she said, a little excited. "Savage. And you sound happy about it?" Isabel asked. "Of course I am. At least this charade of marriage came to an end. I also showed the pictures to my parents when I came back yesterday. They didn't take it so well. They cancelled all their partnerships with my ex's family. After all, it was them that arranged the marriage," she said happily. "So what are your plans now?" I asked. "Well, for now, I just want to spend some time with my best friend," she said, and she came around to where I stood and held me by the arms. We both laughed. But Isabel laughed hysterically. "Best friends, you say?" Isabel asked. "Of course, you didn't tell her?" She continued, "Tell me what Eva asked. My brother has been crushing on you since 4th grade. He promised me he would tell you after you guys' graduation from Oxford University. But I guess he didn't," my sister said casually. "And I thought I was the only one," Eva said as she turned towards me. I was surprised by her statement. "I've always liked you. I mean, who wouldn't? And besides, you were always surrounded by girls back then at the university. And I didn't want to spoil our beautiful friendship, so that's that," she said solemnly. I was shocked and surprised. I looked around the room, and surprisingly Beverly was there and she heard everything. And I swear was starting to get a little complicated now. "I don't think this is the place or the time to talk about this personal stuff," I said, sounding really pissed at Isabel. "I should go, sir," Beverly said and left the office. I wanted to run after her and tell her that all she heard was a lie, but I couldn't because it was all true. I had been in love with Eva since high school. She meant the world to me back then. and I could have done anything for her. The time I wanted to tell her how much I loved her. Her parents took her out of the country and got her married off. And now she is back and single again. I just don't know what to do. I am stuck with the love I felt for Eva and the love I'm feeling now for Beverly. I am stuck in a crossroad and I don't know where to turn. I will be leaving now, Derek. It was really good seeing you. And I will stop by on Sunday to see your parents. I've missed them, she said as she left my office. Shit, this was the same Sunday my parents asked me to bring Beverly home for them to thank her for saving their son. Kill me already, I said as I sank into my seat. Since after the sudden return of Eva and secrets unveiling in my office 3 days ago, Beverly hardly stays in my office more than 30 seconds. Once she is done with whatever brought her to my office, vroom. She is gone, just seems that she is avoiding me. More often than not, Eva has come to my office thrice this week to grab lunch with me. I love it. And I'm seriously not complaining, at least it helps me catch up with years we haven't seen each other. But I don't know, I just miss Beverly. Even though she comes to work every day, and I see her every now and then, it just feels like she's been distant. So I took it upon myself to pay her a quick visit in her office. That seems to be the only way I can get her undivided attention. She stood up immediately. She saw me walk in on her. Looked really surprised to see me, given that she just left my office few minutes ago. "Is there anything I can do for you, sir?" she asked politely. "Oh, don't worry. I just wanted to check up on you. As friends, we hardly talk these days," I said, staring at her beautiful face. I can swear she blushed. "You know, since you heard everything in my office about Eva, you've been acting weird and distant, like we never had a moment at your place." "Like the kiss didn't happen?" I asked sadly. She sighed. "Let's just keep it that way. Like it didn't happen. Especially not now that the love of your life is back into your life," she said solemnly, like she was hurting. "What do you know?" I said in my mind. I was hurt the more by what she said. Immediately her office phone rang. "I will have to take this, sir," she said as she made to answer the call, but I got to it before her hands could reach it. "She is in a meeting," I said to whomever that was in the other line, and dropped the phone. She looked at me in surprise. "That could have been an important call," she said, sounding really shocked. "They can wait," I replied back. She looked at me shocked and surprised, still trying to find out what exactly brought me into her office. "Anyway, I came to let you know that my parents will like to formally meet you on Sunday. This is our address," I said as I handed her the card. "What for, if I may ask?" she said. "Well, they wanted to meet the lady that saved their boy from the fire accident. And I know you might probably have plans with Kelvin on Sunday, so I'm just asking if you can respect this invite," I said. "Well, I don't have any plans with Kelvin, and second of all, I will be there," she said, staring at me. I couldn't help but stare back. She was perfection. I looked away and turned to leave her office, but I stopped. "Screw this," I said as I turned back and walked up to her held face and kissed her tenderly and deeply. And instantly I was aroused. And of course she kissed me back. I let go of her a few minutes later. I lost my breath as I stared at her flushed face, not knowing what to say. So I just turned to leave again before I do any more crazy stuff.
Please tell me, are you enjoying the story? If so, tell me, what lessons have you actually learned? I would really love to hear your comments in the comment section down below. And remember, to support this channel, please subscribe, like the video, comment, just say something. Even a word could literally mean a whole lot. So I want you to tell me, what lessons have you learned from this story? Trust me, these are situations that most people actually gone through. I'm sure some of you that are watching this story have actually gone through this situation. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear how you dealt with the situation that you were faced with.
"You can't just kiss me anytime you feel like it," she said softly. "I can't help it, okay? I can't. I can't just bury my feelings because Eva just got back and you are with Kelvin. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. And whether you want to believe it or not, I know you feel something for me too. Your kiss says it all," I said as I left. On getting to my office, Eva was already inside. "Not now." "Eva, what are you doing here?" I asked as she came around and hugged me. "Are you okay? You look troubled," she asked. I've almost forgotten that's one of the things I love about her. She always looks out for me. Am fine, just work, I lied. So what brought you by? I asked as I sat behind my desk. It was already past 4, and I totally forgot that I promised to introduce her to my friends today. Don't tell me you have forgotten you promised to introduce me to Tony and Co, she said. Damn, my bad. I'm sorry, I totally forgot, but you are early. I remember telling you we will meet them at the club, that you should come over at my place by 6 p.m. so we can go from there. I said as I packed to leave the office for the day. Well, you are right. I just wanted to spend some time with you. Is that a bad thing? She asked softly, seeming like she was hurt by my interrogation. Of course not. Forgive my manners, I said. You can make it up to me by buying us lunch, she said, smiling. Typical Eva. All right, let's go, I said as we left the office. We got to the eatery. I ordered my favorite, white rice and sauce. She ordered fried rice and salad. We eat as we reminisce about the past. We laughed a whole lot through the lunch that people stared at us. I was really enjoying my afternoon. I told her about my ex-fiancée Sandra and how she betrayed me. She was baffled. Her loss, though you haven't told me why a healthy, young, handsome business mogul like you still single. I'm surprised, she said. I gave up on women. I initially categorized them as the same until I met someone that proved me wrong, I said as I thought of Beverly. Immediately she raised an eyebrow. And who was that? She asked. No, it's nothing, I lied as I eat my food. Since we both are single and we care about each other a lot, why don't we make us official? She said as she kissed me. And I just sat there. We got to the club around 8 p.m. My guys were already there, so I took her straight to our VIP spot. Guys, meet Eva. Eva, meet my crazy friends, I said as I introduced them. Eva was the life of the party. She immediately blended in. My friends seemed to like her, especially Jason, as the both danced stupidly. Eva was a terrible dancer, but that never stopped her from dancing anyway. Can I talk to you in a less noisy place? Tony said as we left them and went to the men's restroom. Yeah, what's up, bruh? Her, I said as we got to the restroom. What the hell, man? Is she for real? The guys are dating. Just few days after she called off her wedding. What do you think people in the media will say? He asked. I don't really care, man, I said casually. Okay, what about Beverly? Are you just going to pretend that you don't love her? Tony said, asking the most difficult question. I don't know, man. She is with Kelvin, all right, and she likes him. So, it's all good, I said sadly. Do you love Eva like you do Beverly? Tony asked again. I'm getting really pissed at these interrogations. All right, that's enough, man, I said as I tried to stay sane and awake since it becoming clear that I was drunk already. That's what I thought. Keep on drinking yourself to stupor thinking it will make you forget Beverly. Believe me, it will make it worse. I've never known you for a coward, Tony said, and he left. I came out of the restroom and ordered for another bottle of Moët. I drank so much that Eva had to drive me home around 12 a.m. She actually helped me upstairs and to my room. I fell on the bed like a log of wood, very tired and miserable. You need to remove your clothes and take a shower. You reek of alcohol, she said, as she made me sit up on the bed and started unbuttoning my shirt. She removed my shirt, shoes and other jewelries I wore, handed me a towel and dragged me to the shower. Still drunk and feeling lightheaded, I removed my trouser in front of her and laughed hysterically. Surprisingly, she didn't look shy. As a matter of fact, she smiled. You want to join me? I said, smiling as I draw closer to her and grab her waist, kissed her and unhooked her bra. I looked up at her as she was already flushed and aroused. I unbuttoned her blouse and grabbed her breast. As she moaned, few minutes we were in each other's arms inside the shower as we made out. I woke up 9 a.m. the following day, naked on the bed with no record of what happened last night. What the hell? I said as I got up from the bed, grabbed a neat boxer from the wardrobe and headed downstairs. I heard some noise in the kitchen, so I went to check it out. Was Eva wearing one of my shirts, cooking what smelled really nice. Eva, I said surprisingly, as I thought she'd left last night after she got me home. Oh, honey. Good morning, she said as she came and wrapped her hands around my neck and kissed me. Why are you wearing that? I said. You really don't remember last night, she said, smiling. Well, maybe, I said, feeling a little embarrassed. Last night was magical, she said, as she sat me down on the dinner and told me everything exactly as it happened, to my memories as I started to see flashes of what happened last night. Okay, I think I've heard enough. I'm going to go shower. I have a 10 a.m. meeting at the office, I said as I made to leave the kitchen, but she blocked my exit. Breakfast first before you go, she said, smiling. I couldn't help but laugh. All right, boss, I said as I went upstairs to shower. I stood impatiently at the balcony on my parents' place, waiting to see if Beverly will come see my parents as she promised. I mean, my mum and Isabel had put in a lot of work to prepare some wonderful dish for the dinner, especially for Beverly and, of course, for Eva, who will also be visiting. I just have a bad feeling about this dinner. So I invited Tony too. He was the first that drove in with his fiancée. Eva came in a minute later, as she made it abundantly clear to my whole family and friends that we were officially together, as she kissed me in front of them all when I went to welcome her. Tony came up to where I was standing on the balcony. He knew something was eating me up, so he came to see if I was okay. Are you tensed that Eva might find out that you're in love with your PA? Or is it because you had a fling with Eva and now you feel like you cheated on Beverly, even though you guys aren't a thing, and you are afraid she might find out tonight? Am I right? Tony said as he stared at me. How the hell did he know all this? How did you know? I asked as I turned to face him. I was scared that if Beverly found out, whatever she might feel for me will just vanish, and I would lose her forever. You didn't cheat on Beverly as you guys aren't dating, so relax your mind, Tony said as he tapped me on the shoulder. We were still talking when a black-tinted glass Land Cruiser drove inside the compound. We watched as Beverly walked down from the car with Kelvin. You've got to be kidding me, I said when I saw them. I went downstairs with Tony, who told me to keep my cool. And don't act or say anything stupid. Hi. You made it, I said as I welcomed them inside, forcing a smile. Yes, Derek meets Kelvin. Kelvin, this is my boss, she said as she introduced us. I've heard a lot about you, he said, smiling. You have, haven't you? I said. Don't be cocky, Derek. Welcome our guest inside, my mum shouted from behind. We guys sat in the living room as the ladies went to the kitchen to help my mum dish out the foods. This was the perfect opportunity I had to ask Kelvin the question that Beverly didn't want to answer. So how long have you known Beverly? I asked casually. We've known each other way back in high school. She got a scholarship to study in my school back then, adorable British college in Lekki. She was the poor kid that got the opportunity to study in the best college in Nigeria, or so our schoolmates thought back then, but I knew she was special right from the time I saw her. Not only was she smart, she was compassionate and beautiful. We started off as friends, then ended up becoming more than friends. We were madly in love with each other. I promised her I will marry her one day. I took her to meet my parents, but they disapproved of our friendship and shipped me abroad afterwards. I just got back a few weeks ago, and I swear I never thought I would see her again, he said solemnly. Wow, that's some history. That was all I could say because this guy didn't just like Beverly. He adored her. So what are your plans now since you are back? Tony asked. Well, I came back to take over my family's business and also start my own media company. But most importantly, I plan to spend some time with the love of my life and fulfill my promise. Dinner is set, boys, my mum called out. At the dinner, all my parents and Eva talked about was Beverly and Kelvin, and how they have a beautiful relationship. I was gutted. I felt like leaving. So how long have you guys been together? Kelvin asked Eva and I. I didn't know how to answer that, so Eva did the honors. And of course, she said things that I didn't plan on getting out. Not the one-night fling we had, though. I just stood up and excused myself, as everyone stared at me. So what are you ordering so I can place your order with mine? I asked. I will have whatever you're having, she said while pressing her phone. Fried rice and chicken it is then, I said as I placed the order. We sat in silence for a few minutes that seemed like ages. The silence was deafening that I had to say something. I was about to do something when she said, "Sir, my 6 months internship will be ending by next week Friday, and I will be going back to school the upper week to prepare for my finals and defense." On hearing this, I jumped from where I lay on the sofa. "Is it March already?" I said grudgingly. "Yes, it's March 20th to be precise," she said. "Gosh," I said angrily. "Gosh, this stupid accident." I was mad and at the same time sad, because February was around the time I was mobbed and hospitalized. Prior to February, I had bought a VIP ticket to an AY show that will take place in Eco Hotel, and I was planning on taking her with me. "Why are you so angry?" she said with concern written all over her. "It's nothing, never mind." "So tell me how you spent your Valentine. Did Kelvin spoil you silly?" I asked to my chagrin. "Not funny. Anyway, I went to the orphanage with some of my friends, and from there we went to the motherless babies' home. Here, let me show you. We took some pictures," she said as she came around and sat beside me. I was in awe of her. We went through her phone as she showed me the photos. "Oh, these babies are really beautiful," I said, and we continued looking through all the photos. "Wait, are they twin?" I asked Beverly, because she and her friend were carrying a baby that looked identical in one of the photos. "Yeah, they are identical twin," she said, smiling gorgeously. "I love twins. I pray my future wife gives me a set of twins," I said, staring deep into her eyes. "What a coincidence. I love twins too," she said, smiling as we stared at each other. I didn't know when my right hand stroked her soft face. She closed her eyes for a few seconds and opened it. I saw a desire in her eyes that burned like furnace. All of a sudden, the living room was uncontrollably hot and suffocating. Every atom of my being wanted me to kiss her. I was fighting it because if we start, I might not stop myself. We both wanted each other so badly. I drew closer to her and about to kiss her when we heard a knock on the door. "Let me get the door," I said as I excused myself from the living room. I cursed under my breath as I went to see who was at the door. It was the delivery man, delivering my order. "Thank you," I said as I signed off on the delivery and shut the door. "Our order just arrived," I called out from the hallway on getting to the living room. She was already placing the plates on the dinner. I have a better idea if you don't mind," I said as I carried the food and placed on the center glass table in the living room while she stared at me in surprise. "Hold that thought," I said as I rushed upstairs to get a duvet and a DVD plate. I spread the duvet and in the center of the living room placed the food on it, with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. With that, it looked more like a romantic picnic, just the way I like it. "So how does it look?" I asked while taking a deep breath after all the running. She smiled. "It's cute," she said as she made herself comfortable on the duvet. "Lest I forget," I said as I went and on the TV and inserted the DVD plate inside the DVD player. "Hope you love action movies," I asked while backing her, whereas she dished us the food. "They are my favorites," she replied. We were watching the movie in silence, I thought, and wondered what could have happened had we not been interrupted. I stared at her beautiful face while she ate her food. I couldn't help how much I loved her. "Wow, I love this movie, honestly," she said happily. "I know you would," I said, smiling at her as I continued with food. Silence engulfed us again like a cloak. It was really awkward. We were watching an American movie with the title Death Race. It was a fierce action, romance, and everything in between. It got to a point where 2 main characters were making out. The most intense kind of sex. The silence became more deafening than it already was. I thought of fast-forwarding it, but then again, it might look a little bit childish. It's not like I've never had sex, but if I don't, it will look like I'm enjoying it, which wasn't entirely false. I needed a distraction ASAP because I was already getting aroused, and I might not be the only one, as I looked at Beverly, who stared back at me uncomfortably. So my board and I want to retain you here during your youth service. I could give a call to the chairman of the youth CORPER to facilitate your posting here with ease, so what do you think?" I said. "Well, thank you for considering to retain me. That means I did something right," she said, smiling. "Are you kidding me? You did an excellent job, especially during my absence. You obviously don't know how proud I am of you," I said proudly. She blushed, but I can sense her reluctance to accept the offer. "Thank you, sir, but I've already accepted an offer to do my service at Zetrov Group of Companies," she said calmly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Zetrov an oil company owned by Kelvin's father?" I asked. Yes, it is, and one of the best and the biggest in Africa, she replied smartly. Are you doing this because he told you so, or because it's what's best for your career, or because of loyalty as his girlfriend? Because you see, I'm confused and conflicted here, because I can remember you telling me on more than 3 occasions that it has been your dream and goal to work and manage a wine conglomerate, and I'm giving it to you in splatter. But you are going to toss it aside for some bloody loyalty you have for some douchebag that doesn't deserve it. I said angrily, though I didn't mean to say that last part, but I don't regret it. Okay, that's enough. Whatever reason I have to choose Zetrov ahead of your winery is absolutely none of your business. And calling Kelvin names is what I will never take, she fired back. Like, wow, it's none of my business. And as for Kelvin, I will call him whatever I deem fit. You obviously don't know the guy you are throwing away everything for. He doesn't deserve your loyalty, Beverly, I lamented. She looked at me in surprise. And what is that supposed to mean? She asked, staring deep into my eyes, and I was tempted to tell her every dirty little secret I discovered about her so-called hubby, especially the fact that he was a player, a Casanova, that changes girls like cloth every Friday in Sleek Lounge. But it wasn't my place to tell, so I didn't say anything. All I'm saying is that he ain't good for you, I said calmly. Says the guy that is willing to cheat on his girlfriend with his PA, and you think you are good for me? With all due respect, sir, you are no better than Kelvin, she fired back. Yes, I loved Eva more than life itself, but I couldn't man up to tell her how I felt for her until it was too late. Then I met you. We met in one of the most unceremonious moments of my life. You swept me off my feet the moment you walked into my office for your interview. And for the record, Ava was the one that initiated the idea of this relationship, and I only went along with it because I wanted to get rid of whatever feelings I had for you, since you were with Kelvin, not because I'm still in love with Eva, because I'm not, I said solemnly, while she stared at me as I continued. And yes, I am good for you. You know why? Because we both share a connection and chemistry that you and Kelvin or anyone else doesn't have or will ever have. You know and feel it too, and even you can't deny it, I said, coming closer to where she stood. I don't know what you are talking about. She denied. I can see it in her eyes, though it hurts coming from her. Look me in the eye and tell me you don't feel anything for me, and that all this feelings and love is just me living in a fantasy world, that you never for once wanted me as I wanted you. It took her a while before she answered, but I don't have feelings for you, I never did, she replied calmly. I was perplexed. I didn't know how to react to what she just said. I felt and could hear my heart break into a million pieces. I fought a tear that wanted to escape from my eyelashes. I turned and backed her, trying to get myself together before I could say anything. Thanks for being honest with me, I said, even though, deep down my shattered heart, I know something tells me she was lying. I would help you pack the plates and wash the dishes before leaving, she said, but I objected. I wanted to be left alone. Don't bother, I will do it myself, I said. She looked at me as if she was sorry for something she said. I don't know. Then I would take my leave, she said as she turned to leave. Ava would be coming back from Ghana by next week, and I will tell her the truth about my feelings. Not because of you, but because of me. I can't live a lie like you do. Not anymore, I said, and she turned to look at me while I backed her to pack the plates and food. I heard her footsteps as she ran out of the living room. I slumped on the floor, my heart hurting and my ego badly bruised. I hated myself for falling for her. Now that she and I are done, I have no obligations to protect a fool like Kelvin. I think now is the time I tell the investigators and the police everything I remembered before my attack, especially the fact that Kelvin threatened me the exact same day of my attempted murder. It's time to break the ice, I thought as I drove to see my parent. It's my first time reporting to work since the attack. I needed to dive into work, format my heart, and forget everything that had to do with Beverly. It's the season of formal employer and employee relationship. I had also invited the police investigating my case, and also the private investigator my dad hired from New York. I needed them to watch the CCTV footage of the confrontation I had with Kelvin, and then know the next move to make. I was on the phone when Beverly walked in with some files. "Good morning, sir. Here are the files you requested from the CFO," she said, handing me the documents. "Forward a memo to my board members. Remind them of an emergency meeting we are having tomorrow by 9:00 a.m., I said, without even taking a glance at her. Also, I believe there is a space I need to sign in your logbook, I asked. Now looking at her with an emotionless eyes, it was easy to hate her, but I hated myself more for loving her. Yes, sir, she replied. Good, now run along, because I might not get another chance to sign it for you this week, as I will be extremely busy, I said as I went back to working on my system. Sir, I'm not with it at the moment. May I bring it tomorrow? She asked calmly. Then go get it, I said, almost barking. I looked at my wristwatch. It was almost 10:30 a.m. I would be having a visitor any moment from now, and I would be leaving this office for a business conference by 1 p.m., so go to your apartment and get your logbook fast, I commanded. She was about leaving when I heard a knock on my door. Come on in, I said to the visitors at the door. I don't want to be disturbed. Now you may leave, I said to Beverly as she left. I could see the look of surprise and shock on her face. I bet she didn't expect me to be uptight and so formal to her. Well, it's my easiest way to forget what I felt for her. Why don't you make yourselves comfortable, gentlemen? I will be with you shortly, I said as I added the finishing touches on my work on my system. My chief of security walked in with a flash drive I requested. Thank you, I said to the man as he left. Then I went and joined the officers on the sofa. So tell us, starting from the beginning, why you think Kelvin has anything to do with the attack on your life, one of the officers asked. Well, I'd rather show you, I said as I inserted the flash drive in my laptop as we all went through the footage together. So what do you think, gentlemen? I asked, staring at them as they made notes on their notepad. Well, this will certainly help in the investigation, but it's not enough to pin it on Kelvin Parker, the international investigator said. That's why you people should have caught those damn robbers by now, so they can identify whoever is behind the attack. What have you guys been doing? I asked angrily. Though I didn't plan to lose my cool, I stood up angrily from where I sat and passed the room. Well, this intel is supposed to be confidential until they are caught. But I will let you in on all we've been doing since it involves you, the chief investigator said. He cleared his voice and continued. We tracked your car to an abandoned warehouse in Festac, but the assailants had already fled the scene before we arrived. But we took DNA samples from the prints gotten from the car, alcoholics bottles, shirts, and even sticks of cigarette from the scene. The forensics ate running the sample in their system, so we will be able to identify them by tomorrow at latest. And when we do, we plan to put out their faces as a wanted men on all police network, security agencies, and all television networks in the country. Soon they will not find anywhere to hide. We are giving it until Friday before they are flushed out and eventually caught, the chief said confidently. I felt relieved. At least they are taking all necessary means to catch those bastards. In the meantime, we will invite Kelvin to the station tomorrow for questioning, the second officer said. Well, thank you, officers. And you too, Parker, I said as we all stood up. Just doing what I'm paid for, he said as they left my office. I looked at the wristwatch. It was 11:30 a.m. I should be getting ready for the conference. I called Beverly's office luckily for her. She was back. Bring me your logbook, I said as I hung up. She came in few seconds later. I signed off on her logbook. Thank you, sir, she said as she turned to leave. I almost forgot, I said as I brought out a check and handed it to her. Here, take this, I said as I handed her the check. She froze for a while. I could see the shock and surprise in her face as she stared at the check. The company and I want to say a big thank you for an excellent job you did as my PA, I said while she stared at me for some time before saying anything. 1 million naira for a thank you. Are all other interns getting these checks? She said solemnly. No, just you, I replied. I don't know what to say, she said. Start by saying you will use it wisely. I chipped in while working on my computer. You can also keep the car, I said casually. Oh my God, thank you so much, she said, almost crying. I stared at her for a while before shutting my system. She didn't know that if it was up to me, I would have given her 10 million naira for being the employee of the year and the best PA I have ever had. Why don't you take seat, Beverly? I said to her while she sat down quietly. I went and stood at the window with my hands in my pocket as I turned to her. I wanted to talk to her as a concerned boss to a smart employee that's about to make the biggest mistake of her life. I have some advice for you, and I might not get another chance again, as I may not be in the office this remaining days of the week and certainly not going to be around on Friday. On hearing this, she stared at me with those lovely eyes. She obviously was sad. Take this from a man that studied chemical engineering, but had a penchant for wine and spirit production, and today owns the biggest, most successful wine company in Africa. Your goals and dreams shouldn't stop for anyone. Either they support you or you fight and make it alone. Either way, make your dreams happen, no matter what. Good luck with whatever you do with your life, I said as I took my phone and headed out for the door, while she pondered on what I just said. You can leave the same way you came in, I said and left. I was at home on Wednesday evening that same week. I didn't go out with my friends. Not because I don't want to catch some fun with my niggers, but ever since my heartbreaking debacle with Beverly, they have been trying to set me up with beautiful girls at the club, especially Jude. He is just a crazy jolly fellow. One time I told him, "Jude, you are well aware that I'm with Ava, right?" I asked. "Please, we all know your relationship with Ava was just a facade," he said savagely. I smiled as I thought about what he said. I was watching Game of Thrones when I heard my doorbell ring. I wanted to go upstairs to go grab a shirt since I was shirtless, but the ringing followed a banging on the door. "I'm coming," I shouted to whoever that was at the door. On getting to the door, I opened it and it was Beverly. "What are you doing here?" I asked as she barged in. I closed the door and followed her from behind. "Why?" she asked as she clasped her hand on her chest. "Why?" "What?" I asked. "Why is the police investigating Kelvin? Why did you tell the police that he was behind the attack on your life? Kelvin that I know will never hurt a fly. Oh wait, does this have to do with the fact that I choose Kelvin and Zitrov over you and your company? So you thought since you couldn't get me, you now want to taint and destroy his reputation? Wow, I'm disappointed in you. I thought you were an honorable man, Derek, but I guess I was wrong." She blew hot. "Are you done?" I fired back as she stared at me in shock.
If you made it to the end of part 2 of this thrilling story, then all I can say is congratulations and thank you. These videos really take a lot of time to make, but you guys' support really keep me going. Comments below and share this video with your friends and family. Also, like and subscribe to the channel so that you'll be the first to be notified when I drop a new video.
"Are you done? Now sit your ass down. I'm coming," I said as I went upstairs to wear something proper. I came down minutes later with my laptop and sat across from her. "Come and sit beside me. I want to show you something," I said while she stared at me, trying to know where this is going. "Well, come on, I'm not going to eat you up," I said casually while she reluctantly joined me in the couch. I showed her the CCTV footage I copied into my system. She watched it with utmost concentration. I could see the surprise on her face as she watched it to the end. She looked into my eyes with concerns written all over her face. I didn't say anything for a while. I wanted so much to touch her beautiful face, stroke her hair, kiss her passionately, and make sweet love to her. That's what my whole body craved at the moment. She was like a drug that I'm addicted to. I would have done one of those if I hadn't gotten my ass off that couch. I went and stood opposite from her almost immediately with my hands clasped around my chest. "When was this?" she asked calmly. "It was in the morning of the day of my attack," I replied. "But it doesn't mean he ordered the hit on you. I mean, clearly from the footage, he was just being paranoid and jealous, and besides, he was with me throughout the evening," she argued, defending Kelvin. "I didn't tell the police that he orchestrated the hit on my life. I only showed them the footage, and they said they would invite him over for questioning. But if he told you that I am accusing him of attempted killing me, then he is one lying paranoid son of a bitch," I cursed angrily. She stared at me for a while. "So why didn't you say anything before?" she asked. At this, I had to sit down and explain things to her that I didn't plan to. "You were finally back together with the long-lost love of your life, and we were in a great place. We became pretty close, and I thought if I gave the police that piece of information back then, he would become the #1 suspect, and that might ruin our friendship. And you might probably hate me, because even though you were with Kelvin, I didn't stop for once to believe in the love I have for you, and I might have my chance with you one day, so I didn't want to burn that bridge. Plus, I didn't want the people and the media think it was a strategy to get to snatch you from him," I said solemnly. "So what changed? Why did you bring it up now?" she asked calmly. "Because you broke my heart," I replied, and I saw her shudder as she bowed her head. "If it's any consolation, I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, raising her head. "Yes, you did," I replied sharply. She was about to say something when her phone rang. "Hey baby," She said on the phone to obviously Kelvin. I excused myself from the living room. I came back minutes later when she was done with the call. I would like to take my leave now. I overheard that you left your car at home. It's already late, so why don't I give you a ride home? Oh, don't bother, I will catch a cab, she objected. I wasn't asking, I said as I took my car keys and headed to the door while she reluctantly followed from behind. We drove in silent till we got to her apartment. A new apartment of your choice was also part of the package for being my proxy when I was in hospital. I stopped at the gate of apartment while she alighted from the car. Good night, I said as I tried to reverse my car. Wait, she said as I waited. Do you hate me? She asked as she stared deep into my eyes. I honestly tried to, but I can't blame you for loving someone else, I said and drove off. I gave myself a day off in Thursday, as I wanted to spend it with Eva. I honestly did not know how to approach her about the breakup. I thought to myself as I drove to the airport to pick her. Derek, honey, I've missed you, she called out loud as she ran into my arms. I really did miss her. She was one of my best friends, my gist partner. Seeing her now, I've realized that whatever I feel for her now is the same as what I feel for my sister Isabel. I smiled as I hugged her. Did you miss me? She asked, chuckling. Of course I did, I said as I helped her with her luggages in the boot. Her parents don't reside in Lagos, so she would be staying in my house at least for the weekend till she leaves for Abuja next week. We talked about a lot of things on our way home. She was a talker, and there was never a dull moment with her. She was all about positive vibes. I didn't cook anything, so let's go eat at Genesis Eatery, I said as I thought that was the perfect opportunity to start the discussion. Wait, I have something I want to tell you, she said while I sat down beside her. What's wrong? I asked. I had an affair during the film shooting in Ghana, she said bluntly. I was shocked and surprised. Say what? I asked to ascertain if heard right. I know what I did was wrong, but I didn't plan to, and I'm so sorry, she said as she started crying bitterly. I didn't know what to say or how to react to that information. I looked at her. She was really sorry, and I couldn't get mad at her because I too wasn't perfect. All right, honey, stop crying, I said. So tell me, how did this happen? I asked her. Well, it started when the lead actor was introduced as the legendary Jackson Tyler. She said, smiling. What? The designated playboy Jackson Tyler was the lead actor, I asked, shocked as I know his influence and the charm he has over the female counterparts. Even I learnt work from him when it came to flirting and wooing ladies. So what happened? I asked, really anxious to know what he has to do with this story. I was to fall in love with him in the drama, but ended up falling in love with him outside the shooting too. She said, Ooh, not you too, I lamented. I know, right? I mean, I tried so hard to avoid him, but he was everywhere. I didn't know when it happened. I swear I didn't mean to hurt you. She said solemnly, Of course I know, honey. So tell me, do you love this guy? Like for real? I asked as though a concerned brother. She nodded. Yes, I do. She replied, Now, does he love you too? Because I know Jackson. He is a playboy. I don't want you to get hurt. I said, yes, he loves me too. He even took me to his parents, and according to them, I'm the first girl he has ever brought home, she said, blushing. Then I would like to meet him, I requested. He came back with me to Nigeria. He is lodged in Echo Hotels. He too wants to see my people. She said, This is serious. All right, bring him over on Sunday, I said, smiling. Wow, this is definitely not how I envisioned the discussion to go. I'm so relieved and also happy for her. Okay, so let's go, I said. You also said you would love to talk to me about something. Let's hear it, she said, smiling at me. Nothing, it's no longer important now, I said. Of course, it's important since it involves Beverly, she said as I stared at her in surprise. Who told her? I'm not blind, Derek. When I got back from Canada, the thought that you were still single melted my heart as I thought that who knows, maybe we were meant to be. But when I saw you with Beverly, I know there and then that we were never meant to be. It was you and her. The way you looked at her when no one is looking was special. You were in love with her, and she definitely has feeling for you. Am I wrong? She said. I was speechless, didn't know what to say. No, you are not wrong, but she said she doesn't feel the same ways. So it's just me, I said, feeling a bit sad. That's bullshit. You know that's bull, right? She said. Well, I don't know what to believe again. I'm officially tired of being heartbroken or being lied to. I said, "Trust me, she is definitely lying to herself. She will come around though." We were eating and catching up on old times at Genesis when Kelvin walked in with Beverly. Speak of the devil, and I pointed at them as they walked in. "I honestly don't care anymore, and I want to eat my lunch in peace," I said as I ate my food. "So how is the investigation coming up?" Eva asked, while I told her everything that has happened. "Yeah, the images and information of the robbers are everywhere. It will not be long before they are caught," she said, reassuring me. We were minding our business when Kelvin walked to our table to rant like a deranged fool. "Do you think telling the police about our tiny arguments will make any difference in your dead-end investigation?" he said. "You mean the confrontation where you threatened to end me?" I fired back. "You're a coward, a sore loser. Because you couldn't get Beverly, you now think you can ruin my reputation." "Better think again," he said scornfully. I kept quiet, didn't say nothing. I was biding my time. A lot of people were watching, and I sure as hell didn't want any unwarranted attentions on me. "You better shut your mouth, shitbag," Eva fired back. "You think you can walk in here and start talking gibberish, wait till the robbers are caught, then we would know if you are really innocent. And as for you, Beverly, you better cut whatever ties you have with this douchebag, 'cause he's playing you. You obviously don't know you're not the only one he's banging, right, or," she said. I saw the look of shock in Beverly's face when she heard these parts. She turned and stared at Kelvin, who outrightly denied it. "Let's get the fuck out of this place, Derek," Eva said as I paid the waitress and left. I've never seen Eva this mad before. We got in the car, me and Eva. I turned and looked at her smiling. "What was that all about?" I asked her. "That guy is a designated asshole," she said, fuming. "Trust me, I know," I replied, laughing. I drove off from the parking lot. "Why haven't you told Beverly all the nasty things you know about Kelvin, like the fact that he is cheating on her with anything in skirt? That way she can make a choice, either to continue with serial cheat or choose a handsome gentleman that is willing to give her some sweet love such as yourself," she said, smiling. "Well, I don't want to be the one to spill the beans, she got to do the work herself," I chipped in. "You know, Beverly is a smart, beautiful lady, very charismatic, but makes poor choices when it comes to men," Eva said. "You know, the first day Eva walked into my office for her interview, I was starstruck by her beauty. When she smiled, I swear I just froze. She has this perfect dimple on her two cheeks, her personality humbled me," I said without knowing that I was blushing this whole time. "Or you could have seen your face right now, you were totally blushing," she said, smiling, while I laughed and continued. "But lately she seems really reserved and quiet. I sometimes feel like she's sad. You know, I could swear I saw a bruise on her face the other day. I asked her about it, but she said that she jammed her head on her house burglary." I said, "But deep down I feel like something wasn't right." "I have a bad feeling about it though," I said. "You honestly don't think Kelvin hits her? I mean, he can't be a cheat, and at the same time a woman beater too," she said with concerns written over her. "If he ever lay his hands on her, I swear I will kill him," I said as I pulled over at a cinema house. I bought a ticket for us to watch Fast and Furious 9 that was to air that day. I couldn't shake off what Ava said to me as I drove to Echo Hotels for the workshop I was hosting. My company had planned send-off party for all the interns in the company today. I had it to be custom in my company, a day to appreciate and celebrate all the interns with a little token for all their hard work during their time with us. I always make myself available to be around each year since I was the one hosting it, but this year I was hosting a workshop and honestly, I didn't want to be around when Beverly leaves. I'm never good at goodbyes. My workshop ended around 3 p.m. I drove home to get some rest and a much-needed sleep before hanging out with the boys tonight at Sleek Lounge. I quickly remembered that I needed to take some files home for review. I wanted to put a call through to my secretary to tell her to bring it to my house, but I looked at the time, it was already past working hour and she might have probably left with other staff, including Beverly, so I reversed and headed to the company. I got to my office, took out the files from the drawer, went and stood by the window and going through it to ascertain which ones to take home. I was still there when I heard someone open the door. I turned. It was Beverly holding a small envelope. She was startled on seeing me, as she never thought I would be at the office today. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I wanted to drop something for you. I didn't know you would be around," she said calmly. "And what is that?" I asked. It's a letter I wrote for you about something I couldn't say, or rather things I didn't have the courage to tell you in person," she said solemnly. I could see that same sadness in her eyes. I just don't know why it's there. "Are you happy being with Kelvin?" I asked. I honestly didn't know when I blotted out those words. She gave me a dry smile. "Of course I am," she said. And then and there I knew that she was lying, because she is a terrible liar. "Thank you for everything you did for me for the past 6 months," she said, coming so close to where I stood. "You were the best employer any employee could have asked for," she said as she hugged me tightly. I wrapped my arms around her. "God, I'm gonna miss you so much, B," I said softly into her ears. "Goodbye," she said and turned without making an eye contact with me. I could swear I heard her sob a little when we hugged. I looked at the floor. I saw some tiny drops of tears on the tile. Why was she leaving when it hurt her so much? What was she hiding? I thought to myself. I wanted to go after her, but I controlled myself. I always believed that if things are meant to happen, it will eventually happen. I stayed for a while before leaving, taking the envelope with me. I took a long nap before going out with my guys. I was clubbing with my men, but my mind wasn't there. I was thinking of Beverly and that letter. Immediately, it was 10:30 p.m. I told them that I was leaving. "But you just got here, man," Tony queried. "I know, but I don't feel good. So I'm leaving," I said and left. I got home a few minutes later, showered and took the letter to my room. I lay on the bed as I read her letter. "Hi, if you are reading this now, that means I've left. I sneaked into your office to drop this while you were away on your workshop. There are a lot of things I would love to say to you in person, but I couldn't get myself to tell you. I want to start by saying that I will forever be grateful to you for being the best employer I could ever ask for. No wonder you were the best in what you do. You took me to places I only dreamed of. You easily became my closest friend. You made me feel special. How could I ever repay you? I also have a confession to make. I lied about my feeling. I've lied about a lot of things you've asked me, especially how I feel about you. Honestly, I feel incredibly attracted to you, and I find myself always drawn to you. No matter how hard I fight it, I've been in love with you as much as you have been with me, and I don't regret it. Though I regret hurting you by lying to you, I never wanted to, and it breaks my heart whenever I see you hurting. I know you think I choose Kelvin over you, but my heart has always been with you. Kelvin was there for me in the past, when no one else was. When everyone abandoned me, he loved me even in my poverty. He loved me even when I couldn't love myself, and he still came back for me. But my heart had already belonged to another, and that is you. So being with him was the only I could show my gratitude and repay him. I hope you understand and forgive me. I love you, Derek and Zediego. I will, always will, take care of yourself, and please don't look for me. Yours, Beverly Daniels. I didn't know when tears ran down my cheeks. She really did love me after all. I knew it. But you can't stay with someone out of loyalty and pity. I screamed as ran downstairs, took my keys and headed to her apartment. I called her line. It was switched off. It was already late, 11:15 p.m. I got to her apartment only to be told by the angry, sleepy gateman that she packed out that afternoon. I slumped on the floor. I drove home a few minutes later. On my way home, I was really sad and really happy at the same time. I was happy that I wasn't wrong all this while about how she felt for me, that Beverly, the woman of my dreams, had loved me back all this time, and it wasn't my imagination playing tricks on me. But on the other hand, I was really sad because I couldn't get a hold of her. The fact that she couldn't even consider her own happiness because of some debt she thinks she owes Kelvin for loving and taking care of her during college years. Staying or marrying someone out of pity or loyalty without love being the main catalyst is the worst feeling ever. Because you will never be happy with that person no matter how you try. You will never allow yourself to fall in love or be with someone else, even if you want to. Because then it will feel like you are doing something wrong or bad whereby you aren't. That really is a sad way to live, and I couldn't even begin to imagine what Beverly is going through in that sham of relationship. And to think she is trading her happiness for someone that cheats on her without remorse makes me sick. I got home. I couldn't sleep as I rolled on the bed till it was morning. It was a Saturday morning and didn't feel like doing anything. So finally I slept off around 6 a.m. I slept till it was 11:45 a.m. and I only wake up because my phone was ringing non-stop. It was my sister Isabel calling, "Hey, what is it?" I said, obviously annoyed for waking up. "Good morning to you too. Come and open your door. I'm downstairs," she said and hung up. Only sisters are really pain in the ass. And went downstairs. I opened the door for her and headed upstairs without saying a word to her while she followed like a sheep following its shepherd. I fell on the bed on getting to my room as I wanted to sleep in. You can't possibly be sleeping by this time of the day. It's almost 12 p.m, you do know. I'm not here on a casual visit, right? We are supposed to be reviewing all the financial report we've done since you were admitted in the hospital till last week, and you are the one that scheduled this meeting by 12 p.m, and it's almost time, but here you are yet to brush and shower, she queried. I've already forgotten about the meeting, but this is definitely not a good time for me to engage in any meeting. Whatsoever, I just want to sleep and forget the pain I'm feeling in my heart. Why don't we reschedule to next weekend? I said nonchalantly. Are you forgetting we are supposed to be in Geneva by next weekend for the World Business Convention, so you better get your lazy ass up from that bed. Shower so we can get this meeting over with, cause I got somewhere I need to go with my boo this afternoon. She fired back, dragging the duvet with me. Isabel, I can't do this right now, I said quietly. Why? Is something wrong? She asked, now more calmly. I guess she could sense the change in my voice. Because I'm in so much pain right now, I said. On hearing this, she rushed to my side. Are you hurt? Should I call our family doctor? She said, feeling genuinely worried. I'm feeling enormous pain in my heart, I replied. Or, Derek dear, does this pain has to do with Beverly? She asked. I nodded and handed her the letter as she collected it and read it in silence. After going through the letter, she gave me that look that a mother gives his son that is in pain. Oh, Derek, honey, you know what? The meeting and the financial report can wait. We can do it some other time. I will call and tell my baby to reschedule our date. Right now, let me take care of you, she said as she dragged me from bed to the bathroom. Clean up and come down. I'll be making you a nice yummy breakfast, she said as she turned to go. Thank you, Isabel, I said. You are big brother and I'll do anything for you. She smiled and left. I came down 15 minutes later as I had to get my room in order. I came down with the whole living room smelling of scrambled eggs and hot coffee. She made my favorite breakfast of scrambled eggs, toasted bread and coffee. Aren't you eating with me? I asked. No, I'm good. I ate before coming, she replied. All right then, thanks for the meal though, I said as I helped myself to the eggs and bread. So how did it go with Eva? Did you later tell her everything and how did she take it? She asked. I almost forgot that Isabel can talk for Africa. Couldn't even allow me to finish my breakfast in peace. Can I at least finish my breakfast? Isabel, I told her, oh, of course, sorry. I finished the meal and then I narrated everything to her starting from when I picked her from the airport, to when Kelvin rudely interrupted our launch, and to when I dropped her off at Echo Hotels, where she would be spending some time with her new boyfriend. Isabel laughed so hard when I narrated to her the incidents that went down between Ava and Kelvin and Beverly. Tell me she didn't just call Kelvin a shitbag, she said laughing. Oh, she definitely did more than that, I affirmed. Baby girl has always been the savage queen since our college days, Isabel said, laughing hysterically this time. I had so much fun with Isabel that it lifted my spirits and soul that I didn't even know when we finally had the meeting. She was always my favorite person, her and Eva. She later left in the evening, but not before giving me some much-needed advice. I know what's on your mind now is how to go see Beverly at Unilag, but please don't. She is away for a reason. Whatever is meant for you will always come back to you, including Beverly, because I know she is meant for you, so don't overthink it. She said solemnly. You know, sometimes I do forget that you are my baby sister and not the other way round, I said as I hugged her. Take care of yourself and good night, I said as she left. I drove to the office at around 8 a.m. I had shifted some PA work to my personal secretary against the advice of my board to get a new professional personal assistant. To me, I don't need another personal assistant except Beverly. If it's not Beverly, then it's no one else. Her job will be here for her any time and any day she comes back. I was doing some work on my system when my phone rang. It was the DPO handling my case. The DPO gave me the good news I've been longing for. They have finally caught the criminals, though some of them were gunned down when they opened fire at the policemen, but most importantly, their ringleader and his second were caught alive as they tried to escape. So did they say who hired them? I asked anxiously. Your guess is as good as mine, the DPO said. So it was Kelvin after all, I knew it. Yes, they confessed that he hired them initially to tail you before finally giving the kill order. Thankfully they failed. You better come down to the station, I've informed your father. He said he is on his way with his lawyer. I'm coming right away, I said and hung up. I got to the station 30 minutes later with shouting and barking from every corner of the police station. I saw Kelvin sitting comfortably behind the counter and my dad exchanging brutal words with Kelvin's father. What's going on here, Dad, and why is Kelvin not thrown into the cell? I asked, looking angrily at the DPO. There is nothing Mr. DPO can do in this situation because my client is innocent of the charges leveled against him. There is no substantial evidence whatsoever tying him to your attack except the words of some criminal that might have been coerced to lie and slander his name, his lawyer said as he was signing some paper. And what is that supposed to mean? The criminals confessed that he hired them. What evidence do you still need? Was it not what you said, DPO? I said, turning angrily at him. Calm down, my son. This is not yet over. We are taking this to court. My dad said, patting me on the back. I was so angry. Where is he going? He is supposed to be detained till this case is taken to court. He is a goddamn criminal. I said, fuming as I saw him coming out from the counter. The police has no right to detain my client, and he is innocent until proven otherwise in the court of law, his lawyer said while he made his way out of the counter to where I stood. This is not over, Mr. Benson. Your son will be tried and jailed for a very long time. The fact that you are the chief of staff will not apply here as far as I'm concerned. My dad blew hot. Is that a threat? Mr. Benson asked. No, it's a promise, Mr. Benson. My dad said I went to where Kelvin stood. The sight of him makes me sick. The fact that he is not getting the right punishment he deserves makes me mad like hell. This is definitely not over, far from it, I said to his face. Cry me a river, he said as he laughed hysterically. I felt like punching him, but held myself. Let's go, Dad, I said as we left. I drove to the office filled with rage and anger, so much so that I wanted to punch things. I was held up by traffic when my secretary called me. Yes. I said, sir, our partner from Europe has arrived and are in the conference room already. She said, tell Isabel to start the meeting, I'm on my way. I said and hung up. I arrived at the company few minutes later, rushed into the elevator. I was definitely not in any mood for any meeting, not to talk of meeting of this magnitude, but I needed to get my A game on if I am to convince my board and partners to sign off on the fund needed for my new hotel and resort project. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies, I had an emergency, so shall we continue? I said as I walked into the conference room. The meeting ended 2 hours later. After much deliberations and signing of documents, the hotel and resort project was given the green light to go ahead. I entered into my office after seeing off my partners to their convoy. I sank into my chair in the office as I played back in my mind everything that happened at the police station. I remembered vividly how Kelvin laughed in my face and the built-in anger and rage came back tenfolds. I couldn't help but scream out loud, "Ah!" as I hit my fist on the wall repeatedly till my fingers started bleeding. The blood made a mess on my wall paint. I took my phone, wanted to snatch it on the wall when I saw the beautiful picture of Beverly smiling at me. I had used her pictures as my phone wallpaper, lock screen photo. Looking back at her beautiful face, it made me calm. My anger subsided and my rage disappeared. Hang in there, honey. I will take you away from that monster, I promise, I said to her photo. I put a call through to my secretary. Get me a painter, my office needs painting. I was still on the intercom when my dad's call came in. Hello, Dad. I said, when you are through with your office work, stop at the house first before going to yours. We have a meeting with the lawyer. He said, all right, I will be there in an hour time. I said and hung up. I left the office and went to our company's infirmary to get my right hand looked on by the physician. It received some injections for the pain and was latter bandaged. I drove to my dad's house at around 6 p.m., very stressed and tired. Good evening, Mum and Dad, I said as I walked into the living room. Oh, my darling boy, what happened to your hand? My mum asked, panicking. It was an accident, I lied. An accident indeed, my boy. My dad interrupted while reading himself his newspaper. Come on, Dad, I said, trying to get the old man off my back. Seems the barrister is not yet here, I asked, yawning. He will be running a bit late. He is having an important meeting with the Attorney General of Police and the DPO concerning the case, my dad said. All right, so in the meantime, Mum, I'm hungry, I said, making a face of a hungry 10-year-old boy, which normally makes her smile. Go up and freshen up. I prepared tomato sauce and yam for you, just the way you like it, she said. Yummy. Thank you, Mum, I said as I kissed her on the cheek and went to my old room. I was almost done with my meal when the barrister walked in with the private investigator. I joined them in the living room few minutes later. The barrister narrated to us how the meeting went, and I was uncomfortable with what I was hearing. So what are you saying, barrister? When are we filing the lawsuit? When are we taking this case to court? Because I can't wait for that scum to experience life in prison. I asked anxiously. Well, I'm afraid it will not be any time soon, because of this afternoon, the Ministry of Justice announced that they have embarked on a 3-month warning strike, the barrister said. What the heck? This is definitely not a coincidence. Of all days, why today? Why now? I lamented, that not possible, barrister, because I personally made sure the bill to improve the budget of the Ministry of Justice was passed. As a matter of fact, the bill was passed last week Monday, while the ministry agreed to hold off their strike for at least the next 2 months. How did this happen? My dad asked, obviously puzzled. Well, that's according to the minister, and I suggest you take it up with him, the barrister said. Oh, I will definitely call him when we are done here, my dad assured. So what about the investigation? I hope the officers in charge of the case are still investigating Kelvin, I asked. Unfortunately, the attorney said that an order came from Abuja for the investigation to be dropped till after the strike, the barrister said. By who? My father asked, very surprised. From the office of the presidency, he replied. This is preposterous. How can the president obstruct and end an investigation of this magnitude? I smell propaganda, my mum said. Don't worry, my son, I will take care of this. I will travel to Abuja tomorrow to know what's happening, my dad said. Well, it's pretty obvious. That's Kelvin's father being the chief of staff to the president and his uncle being the vice president are using their power to frustrate and compromise this case. The barrister chipped in. I don't care if his dad is Donald Trump and his uncle Queen Elizabeth. I will not let this slide. If I have to call out the president for aiding and abetting an obvious criminal, then so be it. No one, I repeat, no one will use my case to play politics. I fired back. Derek's son don't do anything rash, my dad said. It is a good thing that I'm not a Nigerian security personnel. That way I can investigate this case quietly without drawing attention. Say like undercover in the hood where the criminals used to operate. That way I can get information the police couldn't. Park said, I am giving the police Dept in charge of this case 4 weeks to get on with the investigation, or I will be forced to tell the whole world, the media and every press in the country, what they will love to hear. I threatened. The order is from the office of the president. They can't renegade unless they would lose their job, the barrister said. And I'm a fucking Spanish national with strong ties with the president. And if Mr. Vice President doesn't get off this case and allow the police and the Ministry of Justice do their job, then I will use all my powerful international contacts to ruin and frustrate his tenure in the office. I hope you tell him that when you see him tomorrow, Dad, I said angrily as they all looked at me in shock. I will be leaving then, I said and left. It was already past 4 weeks and I haven't heard anything from the police or anyone connected to the case. I was getting impatient and restless. So I made up my mind to go live on my Instagram handle to tell my story to my 30 Menamata fans worldwide. I had also notified all the media companies in Nigeria and abroad about the breaking news I was about to share. I began. As you all know, I was hospitalized for 7 weeks at the General Hospital Lagos. Because of an attack on my life, the police had really had to capture the criminals, and they have identified the culprit that hired them. I said as I uploaded the CCTV footage of him threatening me in my office. He was the one the criminals mentioned, and today all of a sudden courts went for strike, and the police investigating the case were asked to drop it. An order that was said to have been given from Abuja, just because his father is the chief of staff to the president and his uncle the vice president. The confession from the criminals was disregarded. But this is a promise to whomever that is trying to play politics with this investigation. It will definitely not end well for you, I said, and ended the live feed. The news was all over the social media, television stations in the country leading the trend. There was uproar and unrest in the government house. Questions were being asked as to why the sudden strike by the Ministry of Justice and why the investigation was stopped. The office of the Vice President was threatened as citizens were calling for his head. I hated media paparazzi and attention, but right now I don't really care. My dad had to hire bodyguards for me because of the press and anyone that will use that means to bring me harm. I was in my office working when I heard a knock on the door. "Come in," I said without looking up to see who was entering. "Your news is everywhere," the voice said, smiling. I remembered the voice. I looked up, it was Beverly. I left what I was doing and stood up immediately. She looked really beautiful. I didn't know when I rushed to where she stood and kissed her passionately while she kissed me back. I could care less if anyone walked up on us. That was how madly I was in love with her. We kissed for a while, and this was definitely by far the longest I've kissed her. I stopped and looked at her beautiful face. I wanted to be sure that I wasn't dreaming, that I wasn't seeing things. She gave me those beautiful smiles that always give me goosebumps. "I love you," she said, and I froze. I had loved her for a very long time now. We were both attracted to each other, and I've wanted her to love me the way I've loved her, to show it and to say it. And now that she did, and I didn't know what to do or say. Suffice to say, I was speechless. I stared at her speechless while she strokes my face. "Well, say something," she said, smiling. "I pray and hope that I'm not dreaming," I said. And this time she was the one that kissed me passionately. "I hope this is real enough," she said. I was so happy that I carried her up and whirled her round the office while she laughed heartily. I brought her down a few minutes later. She held my face with both hands and said, "But..." I interrupted her, cause I definitely will not like whatever that followed it. "But what?" I stammered all of a sudden, which made her laugh heartily. "Oh, you look so cute when you're scared like that. Anyway, I love you so much that sometimes it feels that my heart is gonna burst. But we can't be together just yet," she said. "Why, I thought you and Kelvin are done, that you guys broke up," I asked. "If I broke with him entirely, then I wouldn't be able to do for you what I needed to do. So I just asked him to give me some space," she said, now more serious. "So what is it that you need to do for me?" I asked, now more anxious. "It's on a need-to-know basis, and right now you don't need to know. Plus, that is not entirely why I am here," she said, dragging me to my seat. I sat down, while she sat opposite to me. "So please tell me, why else are you here if not to confess your love for me?" I said sarcastically. She laughed, and just then I noticed that the sadness I saw 3 months ago was no longer there. She looked genuinely happy. That thought alone melted my heart. "Aren't you cute? Anyway, I was hoping if the offer to do my NYSC in your company is still up," she asked humbly. "Oh honey, of course. Have you registered your NYSC yet?" I asked, obviously excited. "Yes," she answered. "All right, I've got a call to make," I told her as I put a call through to the chairman of the youth corps. He was a family friend. "Hello, Uncle Bello," I greeted. "Derek, my boy, how are you and how are your parents?" he inquired. "They are fine, sir," I replied. "So what do I owe this call, young billionaire?" he said. He always called me young billionaire even before I become one. He was one of the few people that believed in my potentials, apart from my parents. "Actually, sir, I need a favor from you. I have a candidate that I need to be posted in my company during her youth service. She was my PA during her time here doing her internship. She was brilliant, so I would like to retain her," I said. "All right, my boy, send me her details in my email. I will take it from there," he assured. "Thank you, Uncle Bello. Have a nice day," I said. "Anything for you, young billionaire," he said and hung up. "Well, that should do it," I said to Beverly, who looked at me in awe. "Money is really good, but connection is even better," she said, and I smiled. She is undoubtedly the smartest lady I know. "Can I ask you something? Actually, it's 2 questions, and I need you to be honest with me." I said, "All right, go ahead," she replied. "What was the exact reason that made you break up with Kelvin? And secondly, what is it that you need to do exactly in order to help me?" I asked, "Okay, I know you wouldn't drop it, so what the hell? I will just out with it. I broke up with Kelvin temporary when I saw you go live on your Instagram IG, and I confronted Kelvin and asked him, but he lied to me outrightly. She said solemnly, "How do you know he lied and wasn't telling the truth?" I asked, "'Cause I know you, Derek. You are a man of principle, integrity, and decency. And I know you would never hurt or frame someone or even accuse someone falsely. You are the most honest man I know," she said calmly. And I felt loved and lucky to have her in my life. Wow, thanks a lot for the vote of confidence in me. So how did he take it? I mean, you believing me instead of him? I asked. Well, he definitely didn't take it lightly. And about the second question, I think you should call a meeting with the people investigating your case because the second answer will be vital in your case, she said. Now I'm more curious to know exactly what that answer would be. Okay then. How about we go grab some lunch, hang out, and maybe around 5 p.m. I will take you to my dad's. There you can tell your story, I said. All right, let's go, she said. We left a few minutes later. I had so much fun with her. I was happy. Actually, the happiest I've been for months. She was my kryptonite after all. We got to Dad's house around 5:30 p.m. My mum was very excited to see Beverly. She couldn't even hide it. "Oh, Beverly, honey, how have you been?" my mum asked. "I'm fine, Ma," she replied, a bit surprised with the excessive hospitality. "Here, come sit with me," my mum said as she took Beverly from my arms to the couch in the living room. "So, Miss Beverly, Derek said you have some information that would help us with the investigation. We will like to hear it," our family lawyer said. "Kelvin is sick, is been very sick for a very long time now. He is a bipolar patient," she said, staring at us in the room to access how we took this disturbing piece of information. That was the reason why his parents shipped him off to Canada after our college graduation. I only found out about his health conditions few months back. I found bottles of drugs in large quantity in his closet, so I ran some of the names of the drug in the system and found out that it was a suppressant for bipolar disorder, she said calmly. I could feel the sadness in her voice as she spoke. "So, what has thus got to do with the case?" I asked. "Find out in the next episode. You can't afford to miss it." Was Beverly able to help expose Kelvin? Was the police able to arrest him? What happened to Derek and Beverly? Did their love blossom, or was it truncated by Kelvin and his cohorts? Was Kelvin's father, the chief of staff, exposed for aiding and abetting? These and more you will find in the last episode.
We have one more amazing episode to go. If you've enjoyed the story so far, please drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you won't miss any updates.
I think he stopped taking it months back when he was suspecting that me and Derek were having an affair. So he became very paranoia and aggressive. He would shout at every little thing. He became so aggressive that he would hit you, right? I asked, interrupting her. "That's not the point," she replied. "So he hit you then? That was one of the marks on your face that Contour couldn't cover. When I asked you about it before you left few months ago," I asked, fuming with anger. She stared at me for a while before she continued. "Yes, and that was mainly why I couldn't choose or be with you back then. I knew he was already bloodshot paranoid, and I knew if I followed my heart and went with you, he might do something terrible to you or himself. So I had to go to him to protect you, Derek." Well, not until I watched that video of you on IG, and then I overheard Kelvin telling his dad on the phone that he had covered all his track, and that Derek would never find any evidence that would lead back at his. So I took up courage to confront him about the news circulating all over the media, but he lied to my face. He even started crying that I could even consider accusing him of attempted murder, and if I didn't know better, I could have fallen for his teary act. So I told him I needed some space, and all of a sudden he flared up. "So I had to walk away," she said finally. "Wow, that is some information," my dad said. "I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna break every bone in his body for laying his filthy hands on you. Beverly," I threatened. I was so mad with rage that nothing else mattered at the point. I couldn't even begin to imagine the pain Beverly went through in the hands of that psychopath. "Calm down, Derek," my mum said. "But I can't, Mum," I replied as I stood up, pacing the room. Beverly came to where I stood and held my hand. "Hey, I'm right here, okay?" she said. She looked into my eyes and reassured me, and I was calm. "So what's next, Mr. Parker? You said you have some information too," I asked. "Yes, I made some unsavory friends in the hood and rival gang of the criminals, And I found out that the leader of the criminal in custody always made it a custom to always have the pictures of his employer taken secretly as a leverage or souvenir, probably for blackmail or out-of-jail card in the future. So if we can get the leader to tell us where the pictures of Kelvin that was taken are, we can stand a very good chance in court, he said. Well, we have the video of his threat to Derek's life, the confession of the criminals, and if we can get out hands on the pictures, and of course, a record of him incriminate himself, then that should be it. But right now we have just the first two, our lawyer said. I can get the record, Beverly said. No, you are not going to get close to that bastard, I said. This is how I can help you, and beside I'm the only one that can get close to him. So let me help you, she said. No, I repeat, no. You've helped a lot and enough, so please stop, I pleaded. You're not listening. I have to do this for you. I wouldn't change my mind, so please don't worry. I will be careful, she assured and kissed me before everybody. Even at that, I was sick with worry. I have a bad feeling about this. I was so scared for her safety. If Kelvin ever finds out why she was there, who knows what he would do? Before we could finish up with the meeting, it was already past 11. All right, Mum, enough with the chit-chat already, and allow me take Beverly home, it's already very late. I said to my mum, "What did you just say?" Beverly asked as she looked through her phone to ascertain if I was telling the truth. "Crap, our security will not let me into the compound this late," she lamented. I felt really sorry for keeping her out so late. "I got a better idea," I said after thinking for an alternative, but I don't know if she will be open to the idea. "Which is?" she asked, staring at me, and immediately I felt really uncomfortable saying it. "Why don't you spend the night here with your dad and I? It's a big mansion after all, don't you think so, Derek?" My mum chipped in. "Of course it's a big mansion, Mum, but I was thinking maybe she should sleep over in my house," I said, keeping a straight face. "But it's already too late to drive to your house at this ungodly hour, and also given the current situation, it's not safe for you, Derek," my mum said. "Back me up here, darling," my mum said, staring at my dad. "Listen to your mum, son," my dad said. "Mum, Dad, the bodyguards that are detailed for my safety and security are not for fancy, so please allow them do their job," I said as I kissed them goodnight and left with Beverly. I was super quiet on our way to my house. I couldn't digest the thought of Beverly going back to that psychopath. What if something bad happened to her in the process? I will never forgive myself. I was still deep in thought when Beverly intertwined her fingers with mine. She must have read my mind and saw how worried I was as I stared at her beautiful face. "It's okay, Derek, I'm going to be fine," she said, "but I can't stop wondering, what if something goes wrong? Promise me that if he suspects anything, you will run as far away as possible, even if you hadn't gotten the evidence. Leave it and run, please," I said, staring into her eyes. She held my face with her other hand. "I promise," she said and kissed me. I was aroused instantly. I kept my cool so she wouldn't know. We got to my house around 11:30 p.m. "Welcome to my humble abode. Would you like to sleep in a room on the first or second floor?" I asked while she smiled. "There is nothing humble about your mansion, Derek, and I would like to sleep anywhere you think is best," she replied. "Of course," I said and took her to her room in the second floor, which was actually opposite mine. I will go and shower in my room. When I'm done, I will bring you some cloths to change into," I said and left. I took my time in the shower during my bath. Lot were going on in my mind, especially the fact that Beverly is going to spend her night here for the first time and I have no idea how to behave around her. I was so uneasy, and I think she was beginning to notice. I came from the shower a few minutes later, put on some cloth and wore my deodorant, which I think was being too excessive. And it's freaking me out. I took my shirt and my joggers and headed to her room, given that I don't live with any female, so she will have to manage mine. I knocked on the door, she opened it a few minutes later. She was outing on a white towel, and it was obvious she was just coming out of the bathroom. My eyes ran through her body unconsciously, and I just froze. "Well, come on in," she said. I hope you manage these cloths. I don't really have any female cloths with me," I said, trying so hard not go stutter, while she turned and stared at me. "I mean, it's not that I'm supposed to have any female cloths, right?" I said again. This time she laughed at me as she came close to where I stood. "Why are you laughing? Do I have something on my face?" I said, touching my face. "Oh, you are so adorable when you stutter," she said, and kissed me on the cheek as she collected the cloths from me and kept it on the bed. "I will be going then," I said as I turned to leave. "Leaving so soon," she said, coming closer to me smiling. She smelled like lavender. "If you are trying to seduce me, then I must say it's officially working," I said, trying to avoid eye contact. "Well, it's only fair given you yourself tried to seduce me when we were in Spain," she said confidently. "What? That's not okay. Maybe you're right, but it's not my fault that you are an exquisite beauty and I a helpless romantic," I said, staring at her dreamingly. She blushed repeatedly as she put her arms around my neck. I felt a cold shiver ran down my spine. "You know you always make me happy, right?" she said calmly while I nodded. Just then she removed her arms from around my neck. "I will like to dress up now," she said, backing me. "Yeah, sure. Just let me know if you need anything," I said and left. I turned on my bed as I couldn't sleep. I was just hoping Beverly will give me call that she needs something, anything, even if it's just drinking water, so I could use that as an excuse to see her once more. My mind was telling me to get my ass from the bed and go see her in her room, as I was about getting up. I heard a knock on the door. I was instantly excited. "Yes, come on in," I said as Beverly opened the door and walked in wearing just the shirt that only covered her thigh. "Can I come inside? I couldn't sleep," she said as she walked in and came around the bed and sat on it and covered her legs with the duvet. While I stared astonished by her crazy curvy body, "I couldn't sleep, and given that you two is blatantly awake, that means you two couldn't sleep. Why don't we play a game?" she said. "What game?" I asked as I put my legs too under the duvet. "Truth or dare game," she said smiling. While I shrugged off the idea, "Don't tell me you are scared that I would dare you to make love to me," she teased me, while I laughed. "Well, I'm not scared," I said. "Well then, I choose truth." "What is your greatest fear?" I asked. "The thought of losing you is my worst nightmare," she answered solemnly. I smiled. "Okay, I will go for truth." I said, "When did you find out that what you felt for me was love and not infatuation?" she asked. "Every minute I spent with you, inside and outside the office, I always knew, I was always sure," I said. "Your turn," I said. "I choose truth," she said. "Are you scared of what I will dare you to do if you choose dare?" "It's not part of the question, actually. I just want to know," I said. "No, I'm not scared at all," she said. "Okay, tell me, has Kelvin ever made love to you?" "You know what? Never mind, don't answer it. That's a stupid and insensitive question. I'm sorry," I said, feeling so stupid. "It's okay, I will answer you," she said. "Well, no, he hasn't, because I've not really given him any chance to be honest," she said as she gave a subtle laugh. "I've never spent a night in his house, even though he's asked me severally. I just couldn't get myself to. Actually, this is the first time I'm sleeping outside my apartment," she said calmly. I stared at her. At this point, I wanted to kiss her badly. "Your turn." I said, "Okay, I choose dare. What's the worst that would happen?" I said as I saw her eyes lit up. "I dare you to kiss me," she said as though she read my mind. I bent over and kissed her passionately. I felt my manhood harden. I tried to control my libido, but the more I kissed her, the more I was losing it. So I got myself to stop for a while as I stared into her eyes. "I love you so much that I can't live without you." "Beverly," I confessed as tears ran down my cheeks. I was so emotional that I didn't know when it happened. "I know you do," she said, and wiped my face with her palms. She lay on my chest afterwards and slept off few minutes later. I loved the way I loved her. I went to the police station 2 days later with my lawyer, and we requested to have some words with the ringleader of the criminals. The police warden and the DPO led me to the interrogation room as they went to bring him. Seeing the bastard, I remembered how he hit me with planks and iron rod. But this is not time to get angry and throw tantrum. It's time for me to get answers. "We have a proposition for you. If you cooperate, we will let the court know, and you will get a lesser sentence given the magnitude of your crimes in the past," my lawyer said. "I'm listening," the criminal said. "We got an intel that you keep pictures of your meetings with your employers and benefactors as an insurance, to blackmail them and protect your criminal organization. Give up the pictures that you took of Kelvin, and I will let the judge know and show leniency," my lawyer said confidently. He immediately looked up at us as we could see the shock and surprise on his face. "How did you get that intel?" The DPO asked. "We've been busy," I replied. "All right, I will cooperate. I'll need a paper and pen so I can write the address of the apartment where you can find the pictures," he said, while the warden rushed to get the writing material. He wrote it down and handed it our lawyer. "Why don't I have that?" the DPO said, and collected the piece. "We will be raiding his apartment tomorrow," the DPO said. "Why not today?" I asked. "Our anti-robbery squad are actually on an operation at the moment, so we will leave it tomorrow." He said, "If you say so, hope to get some good news tomorrow." I said and left with my lawyer. Something was not right, I could feel it, but I just can't place it. I got to the office the following day and was waiting patiently for the DPO's call. I saw news on the television in my office of a burning building. I increased the volume to listen to the news as I wait. To my shock and surprise, the building burning was the exact same building that the police were supposed to raid today and get the evidence. Immediately my phone rang. I looked, it was the DPO. "What the heck happened?" I asked angrily. "I'm sorry, Mr. Derek, but we couldn't retrieve the evidence as the building and the evidence burnt to ashes yesterday night," he said and hung up. I was speechless. I was still trying to recover from the news when another call came in. This time it was my private investigator. "Tell me you have some good news," I asked. "You better rush to Lagos University Teaching Hospital. The ringleader of the criminal is being taken there. I think he was poisoned by someone in the police department. Whatever that is happening is a cleanup of a sabotage. Rush now before they declare him dead," he said and hung up. I picked up my keys and rushed to the elevator. I got to the hospital simultaneously with the police car. He was put on a stretcher and was wheeled immediately into the hospital. I was beside him as he was still alive but breathing heavily. He saw me and held my hand while he squeezed something that looked like a piece of paper inside my hands. "It's a sabotage, the DPO," he managed to say. "The DPO did what?" I asked. "A mole, find the cemetery, find the name in this paper on the headstone beside it. Dig a little deeper, you will find your answer," he said finally in a whisper before they wheeled him inside the emergency ward. I was right all along. It was indeed a sabotage, and the DPO was in the center of it. I put the piece of paper inside my pocket and left the hospital. I got to the office angry that I trusted a snake to investigate my case. I should have known better. I phoned my PI and asked him to meet me in my office. I browsed the name written on the piece of paper given to me by the criminal and found out it was a cemetery in Ajagunle. I went with my private investigator to the cemetery. We searched it for days before we found the exact grave. He helped me dig around the headstone as I was instructed. We found a small box. We took it to my car and opened it. We found a flash drive inside it. I accessed the flash on my system, and to our shock and surprise, because we did not only find Kelvin's picture there where he met up with the criminals, we saw that the picture of the DPO, some members of the Senate, some governors, the chief of staff, some ministers, and even the picture of the vice president was there. This is unthinkable. They were assassins that carried out jobs for the top men in Nigeria. This is unbelievable. I had to call Beverly to tell her the good news at least. "Baby, we did it. We finally found the evidence," I said excitedly. "And I've got your girl," the voice on the other end said. "Who's this?" I asked, fearing the obvious answer. "Find your girl if you can," he said and hung up. I spaced out, couldn't say anything and didn't even know how to process this horrible news. "Who was that?" the private investigator asked. I stared at him for a while, felt numb as tears rolled down my cheeks, because my greatest fear had come to pass. "I think Kelvin has kidnapped Beverly," I managed to say. "Are you sure that that was the case?" the PI asked. He said, and I quote, "I've got your girl, find her if you can." Then he hung, plus he answered Beverly's phone. And if there was any person that hated me for with passion for loving Beverly, then it's certainly Kelvin. I said fearfully. "All right, since we've established who the kidnapper is, don't worry, we will catch him this time, I promise you that," he said confidently. "All right, let me call my dad and give him update on the latest development," I said as I drove off from the cemetery. I called my dad on our way to know if I should go straight to his office or wait for him at home, only to be told that he was in Abuja for the National Assembly meeting. "So, when are you coming back, Dad?" I asked. "Tomorrow or next, is everything all right? You sound worried," he said. He was always sensitive to every smallest thing. "Oh, Dad, something terrible happened," I said. "What happened? Is my wife and daughter okay?" he asked, worried. "They are all fine, Dad. It's Beverly. I think Kelvin found out about the plan and kidnapped her," I said, lamenting. "Oh, my boy, are you all right?" he inquired. "I'm not all right, I'm devastated and terrified for her. I don't know what he will do to her." I said, "Calm down, son. Just phone the DPO and report this new development. I will be back very early tomorrow." He said, "Well, that's another problem. I can't do that." I said, "Why?" He asked, "Dad, it's a long story, and I would tell you everything when you come back tomorrow, but bottom line is we can't trust the DPO and his entire precinct anymore." I said, "All right then, I will have a sit-down with your uncle in the army headquarters today to see if he will give us some military backup that will take over this case, so don't worry, son, everything will be all right." He said, "All right, Dad," I said, and hung up. My uncle is the Commander General of the Nigerian Army, and if I had looped him in on this case before, it wouldn't have gotten this out of hand. I dropped the PI at the hotel where he was lodged and drove right home. I felt horrible all through the afternoon. I was gradually losing my mind. I called my friends over to the house as I needed someone to talk to. "Thanks, guys, for showing up so quickly," I said as I ushered them inside the living room. "Of course, man, you sounded worried. Are you okay?" Tony asked as he made himself comfortable on the couch. "I'm not okay. As a matter of fact, I'm freaking out," I said as I sat quietly on the couch looking depressed. "What's going on, man?" Jude asked. "I think Beverly has been kidnapped." I said, "What did you just say? How is that even remotely possible?" Stefan asked as I narrated everything that has happened with the case. "Damn, so have you reported this to the DPO in charge of your case?" Tony suggested exactly what my dad said. "He is compromised, and I will politely request that he and his station stop handling my case," I said. "Pause right there. What are you even saying?" Jude asked. "It's better I showed you guys," I said to them as I handed my system to them. They went through all the images and videos and were astonished as they stared at me in disbelief. "Is this not the ringleader of the criminal organization that attacked you, here having a private meeting with the vice president? Look at the date that this video was made. It was 2 days before the ex-vice president was murdered. Even the DPO and some of the senators met with him sometimes in the past. This is very bad." Tony said, very shocked. "They are not just a criminal organization, but professional assassins hired by top dogs in Nigeria to carry out their dirty works," I said. "If this pictures and video gets out, it will shake Nigeria as we know it." Stefan said, "So what are you going to do now?" Tony asked. "I will hand this flash drive to my uncle personally if he makes the trip. He is a man of integrity. He will know how to handle this other case, because this one is way over our head. But if he doesn't and sends his subordinate, then I would copy some pictures and video of Kelvin meeting with the assassins to show to them in another laptop. I can only give the flash drive to my uncle," I said. "You know I'm a very wicked hacker. I can help you with some of the encrypted files." Jude suggested, "Trust me, man, I know, but let's just wait till tomorrow." I said, "Okay, how about I help with tracking Beverly's number?" Jude said again, and on hearing this, my eyes lit up. "How is that possible, since her number is switched off?" I asked. "Why don't you leave it to me?" he said while I handed him Beverly's contact information. My best friend stayed till 6 p.m., and I was alone again as the thought of what Beverly might be going through haunted me. I went upstairs to my room, stood and stared at my well-dressed bed, and the memories of the day Beverly slept in my room flood my mind. It was overwhelming, I said on the bed, and pulled out a drawer and brought out a small black box that contained a diamond ring. I was planning to propose to her after everything. I drove off around 7:30 to Beverly's new apartment. She has given me a spare key. I entered her apartment, which smaller like her, lavender. Her living room was neat and kept. I went into her room for the first time. It was beautiful, a typical female room, and just then I looked beside her bed. On her nightstand, I saw my picture framed and kept beside her bed. I stood there as tears ran down my cheeks. It was the picture that was taken when I received my African Entrepreneur of the Year award in Madrid. I wanted to reach and grab the frame, but I didn't, because I didn't want to upset any future investigation that might take place there. I left few minutes later as I couldn't handle the pain anymore. I went to the club to drown my sorrow and ended up drinking myself to stupor. I couldn't even remember how I got back to my house. I woke up the following day around 11 a.m. with the mother of all hangovers. I had this brain-splitting migraine. I rushed to my drawer to get some aspirin that I gulped down with a glass of wine. I was still trying to recover when my phone rang. It was my dad. "Good morning, Dad," I said, sobering up immediately. "I've been calling your line for the past 1 hour. I had to call your bodyguard to know if you were at home. Are you okay, son?" my dad asked. "I'm fine, sir. Was just sleeping. Are you back already?" I asked. "Yes, of course. And as a matter of fact, I came back with your uncle, some colonels and some military police that will take over the case, so hurry and come over to the house. Make sure you come with the flash drive," my dad said and hung up. I got up, immediately rushed to the bathroom, took a quick bath, and 15 minutes later, I was already at my dad's. I had called Jude on my way to meet me at my dad's house. We came in simultaneously. "Uncle Fred," I said as I gave him a hug. He was my favorite uncle. "My boy, how are you?" he asked. "I'm very fine, sir," I replied. I was really happy to see him. "Your dad told me that the same guy that wanted you dead kidnapped your girlfriend," he said in the hearing of everyone in the room. "Yes, sir," I said bluntly. "That's a pretty big accusation. Do you have any evidence to back up this claim?" he said. While me, my lawyer and the PA filled them in on everything that has happened with some evidence. While my uncle and other military personnel listened attentively. "Are you with the flash drive?" my uncle asked. "Yes, I have it here, but with all due respect, uncle, but do you trust this people you came with? Because the contents here might be a threat to national security." I said, biding my words. "They wouldn't be here if I didn't trust them," he replied without taking offense on what I just said. So I handed them my system and the flash. While I went through the images and videos, I could see the disbelief, shock on their faces as they stared at each other. "Who did you say gave you this flash drive?" one of the colonels asked. "The leader of the assassins that was poisoned during his struggles for his life. He gave me the direction on where to get it," I said. "Some of the files here are encrypted," my uncle said. "Yes, that's where my friend here comes in. He is a very good hacker. He can help decrypt the file and I trust him with my life," I said. "Very well then. How long is it gonna take?" my uncle asked. "1 hour tops." Jude replied with an air of confidence. "All right then, let me know when you are done," my uncle said as he and his subordinate went into my father's study to probably have an emergency meeting regarding this new information. I was hovering around Jude when I received a video call from Beverly. "It's Beverly," I said to Jude as I shower him my phone. He took my phone immediately and plugged it to his system. "Now you can answer it," he said. I picked the call, fearing what I could see. "Where is Beverly, you son of a bitch?" I shouted as I saw Kelvin's face. He laughed hysterically at me. "Hey, look at how worried you are, lover boy. Anyway, here is she," he said as he turned the camera to where Beverly was tied to an armchair with her mouth sealed and tears running down her face. I could literally feel my blood boil. "If you touch her, I'm gonna kill you, you bastard," I swore as tears ran down my cheeks. "You will do absolutely nothing, bitch," he said as he hit her hard on the face. I couldn't take it anymore. "Please stop, I'm begging you, okay? What do you want?" I managed to ask. "What do I want? It's simple. I want you to suffer, to feel helpless. I want you to cry like a baby and feel the pain I felt when I found out that Beverly was betraying me for you," he said. "Okay, just stop hitting her, please. I promise to drop all the charges against you. Just let Beverly go," I pleaded. "Let her go. Not going to happen. This bitch never allowed me to touch her, not for once, all because of the stupid feeling she had for you. Do you even know that she was a virgin? Well, of course not. That's why I'm going to taste every bit of her by force, and I promise to send you the video," he said and hung up. My uncle, my parents, and everyone in the room heard everything. I sat on the tiles and wept bitterly. My mum came and consoled me. "Don't cry, Derek. We will find that bastard and your lady friend," my uncle said with an air of authority. "I've located them," Jude interrupted. "They are in Ogun State, in Abeokuta North LGA, at Adele Avenue." Jude said, "Very good. Time for actual action," my uncle said as he gave directives and command to Colonel and the military police on how to carry out the operation. "I'm going with them," I said as I got ready. "No, Derek, you are a civilian and might get hurt during any crossfire," my uncle said. "I know, but the bastard holding Beverly hostage is also a civilian, not terrorists. So please let me go," I pleaded. Very well then, my uncle said and commanded one of the military police to keep me safe. We got to Ogun State and the exact location at around 4:15 p.m. Before we could reach the abandoned warehouse, they were no longer there. I guess he suspected that we were tracking them. Follow me, the colonel commanded as we followed him from behind. As he tracked a trail into the bush, there was a clearing at the center, and just there we saw Beverly, tied to a chair, alone in the middle of nowhere. I ran towards her against the order from the colonel, who suggested that it was a trap. I couldn't care less. I was going to take my chances. I got to her, removed the blindfold from her face. It's me, baby," I said as I tried losing her hand from the rope. "Thank God you are alive," I said as I wrapped her in my arms. "Oh, Derek, it's a trap. Run for your life," she said weakly. I was trying to reassure her that I wasn't going anywhere when she pushed me off with all her might as the first and second bullet fired. I was on the floor as I saw Beverly fall on the ground in a pool of blood. I rushed to her. "Hey, I'm right here, baby. Stay with me." I heard several gunshots. This time it was Kelvin that was gunned down by the soldiers. She touched my face and smiled. "I'm glad you are okay," she said as I tried to hold back tears. "Please, baby, stay with me," I said, crying. Help me, please." I shouted to the soldiers. Immediately a chopper flew in and took us to the nearest hospital. She was rushed to the theater for operation while I paced the ward with blood all over me. I tried to be positive, but each time I tried, tears rolled down my cheeks. I looked for a chapel or sanctuary in the hospital. I found one and went in to talk to God, but each time I opened my mouth, I ended up crying my heart out. I went back into the hospital few minutes later, and coincidentally the head surgeon was coming out of the theater. "How is she?" I asked. "The surgery was a success, but she is not out of the wood yet, so we will be observing her," he said. "Can I see her now?" I inquired. "No one is allowed to see her until she regains consciousness to avoid complications," the doctor said. "Okay," I said and sat down in one of the chairs there and slept off. I woke up the following day, lodged in a hotel and had a change of clothes. I was taking my breakfast at the hotel when my phone ringed. "Am I speaking with Mr. Derek?" The voice on the other end asked. "Yes, this is he." I said, "This is Dr. Ferdinand. The lady you brought in yesterday is awake. She gave us your number." He was still talking when I cut the call. I left the food there and zoomed off to the hospital. I ran into the ICU and there she was resting. I couldn't contain my joy as tears of joy ran down my face. "Hello, stranger," she said, smiling. "I've missed you," she said again. I was speechless. I came and sat around her. "Hi, I've missed you too," I said, laughing. We talked and talked about a lot of things. I didn't even know when I knelt on my feet and proposed to her. I didn't even know that I'd been carrying the ring all this while. "Sweetheart, will you do me the honor of being my wife?" I said tearfully. "Yes, of course," she said, and I kissed her. "I love you," I said while she giggled. And that was how it ended for us in joy unspeakable.